Tension on deck.
All right, good evening, Ron. A special episode on this fine Thursday night, huh?
Yeah. Appreciate our usuals. Detective Nolan standing by. Mike Freed is out there. Hassan right there, right in the very beginning. So good evening to everybody. Yeah, special Thursday evening episode. We had some issues, scheduling, personal things going on that we had to postpone the show from yesterday to today. Because, like we said, this is a self-produced show, and we didn't have any other producers available for the show. So here we are, and we got a lot to talk about. A lot of breaking news, I guess you would say, right? That came up just yesterday when we were actually preparing for the show. So we kind of did a little pivot for our main topic. And so now we're going to be talking about these search warrants that went down on the NYPD current executive, Jimmy McCarthy, and as well as former chief of department, Jeff Maddrey, and former I don't know what his official last title was with the self promotions and whatnot, but I know he was Deputy Commissioner of Public Information, Tarik Sheppard. So we'll talk about that. And just to clarify, some people are saying that it's associated with the Carone brothers being arrested from the Eric Adams administration. That actually came out of the Northern District. And these search warrants and the IAB investigation with the FBI is out of the Southern District. So the two aren't the same investigation. So how's everything going?
Yeah, good. Hanging in there. Even busy. Doing a lot of work, man. I do more work now, retired, than I did when I was working. In fact, I think it was easier to go to work and relax and do that than stay home and deal with everything that you don't realize how much your wives and loved ones do when you're at work, right? And now you're taking on some of that responsibility. It's like, man, I'd rather be at work. So, but yeah, keeping busy.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. I just walked through the door literally at 20 to 5 from running around today. And, a lot of stuff going on. Busy next couple of weeks for me, or next week for me. My daughter's getting married next Saturday. So a lot going on between now and then. And, some other, family coming in town and everything else. Just a lot of hectic stuff going on. And then I told you, right? I text you. So last night, because it's been so busy, I was working on stuff for the podcast till pretty late and getting it ready. And then I'm getting ready to go to bed. And what do? I trip over one of my daughter's toys in the living room. I go down hard. One leg goes one way. One leg goes the other way. I go flying backwards, laying on the floor. What a mess. And we're getting older, because it took me a little bit more. It took me a lot longer to get up than it would have been in the past, So it's a lot going on, and then one thing after another. It's just total chaos, and then we got chaos in the city going on.
Yeah, definitely. Yep, a lot of craziness going on. Yeah, so I mean, I guess we could get into it. Did you know McCarthy, Jimmy McCarthy, at all? Did you ever deal with him, or?
Yeah, he was the XO of Patrol Borough Queens North when I was the CO of the 110 precinct.
Oh, who was the CO at the time?
It was Diana Pizzuti.
Oh, okay, Diana. Yeah,
he was one of the XOs of the borough. So
yeah,
I dealt with him.
Yeah, I knew him in Manhattan South when he was an XO in Manhattan South. So I mean, I don't never thought that he would be involved in any kind of corruption, truthfully. I kind of felt that he was a little bit shaky in some ways, that he wouldn't allow anything like that to happen. So kind of hit me by surprise when I heard his name. The other two, you knew that they were part of it, right? And the other two were, Maddrey, who's been involved with everything else, and with all the corruption, everything else, and we had to figure Tarik Sheppard's. I don't know. I mean, when he pushed Dolan, right? You
Yeah,
had
that
a
was insane.
that was crazy, and then for him to think he could get away with that. I mean, obviously his ego is pretty big, so I could see those two. We understood that, and then all of a sudden they threw McCarthy in the middle of it. So I think, to me, I personally believe it has something to do with the hotels and the immigrants and stuff. Because were there credit cards being passed around that they could use? Credit cards to buy stuff. That's what I had heard. So it's just crazy.
Yeah, I don't know the intimate details of it. I mean, that's what we titled the show. You know, our you know our
Indictments coming down.
indictments coming down because we don't know.
Yeah.
It's a criminal investigation. We know that. They did search warrants on all three of their homes. Commissioner Tisch made her statement. We're going to play a newscast in a minute. But Commissioner Tisch said that it's been a joint criminal investigation with the Internal Affairs Bureau, FBI, and the Southern District of New York, U.S. Attorney's Office. So until the indictment is released and we're able to read the indictment and what the allegations are, like with the Carone brothers, who allegedly took $100,000 funneled through a law firm in order to give those no bid contracts to the hotels.
Right.
We don't really know. What's being reported in the news is that these are all bribery related investigations with regards to promotions within the department and special assignments to people, which was rumored in the past and reported on the Finest Unfiltered network. I remember at one point there were allegations, just rumors and allegations again, that people were paying upwards of $10,000 to get promoted. Remember that?
Yeah.
And we thought, how insane is that? And now you actually have a federal investigation into bribery related. Again, this is coming out in the news. It was reported in the news. But until we see the actual indictment, we won't know what the facts are, what the dates are, and everything else. So, but that's the allegation. So listen, waiting for the indictments. Listen, to modify and transfer a 41-year veteran, 2-star chief, borough commander of Manhattan South, which is one of the premier assignments in the NYPD, is if you're going to be a borough commander, is to be the borough commander of Manhattan South. There's so much going on, right? So we'll see what happens when the indictment comes down, and then take it from there. But it's alarming, and again, we'll see what happens when they actually. Yeah.
I was going to say, I just don't know where McCarthy comes into play, because I can understand, okay, you're paying, and I don't know where people are getting $10,000 or $15,000 to buy, unless you're taking a pension loan and then pay up for a promotion. I think that's insane. Anybody that did that is crazy in itself. But the fact is, I could see maybe Sheppard and definitely Maddrey, and some, maybe even the person from the mayor's office, right? The chief of staff. I can understand maybe that there's pay there to get promoted, but I don't understand where McCarthy falls into play with that, unless unless that's why I kind of think there might be even more to it. There mean something with the hotels. There might be some sort of benefit because the Roosevelt Hotel and all of that, isn't that Manhattan South?
Yeah, but again, I would think that would have fell under the Northern District's investigation, where the Carone brothers were arrested yesterday, and that was for just that, being involved in taking bribes for those no bid contracts.
Yeah.
So I would think that if it had to do with that, and again, it's pure speculation, right?
Yeah.
He's not that nobody from the NYPD is named in that indictment. But these indictments, I'm sorry, these search warrants are part of a criminal investigation, and again, we have to wait. And Mike Freed is saying it here. It was supposed to be released yesterday afternoon, but nothing came down then or today. Yeah, we were looking for it, and I don't remember where I heard that. Where I heard that the indictments were supposed to be dropped yesterday afternoon. We might have confused that in the social media blitz of everything that was going on between the search warrants and then the arrests from the Adams administration, that the indictment from the Northern District was coming down yesterday afternoon, which it did. So maybe that's the case because they were arrested, then they dropped the indictment, made the indictment public afterwards. Whereas Tarik Sheppard, Jeff Maddrey, and Jimmy McCarthy, and also Lieutenant Jimmy Lee from Manhattan South,
yeah,
who was also modified and transferred in regards to this. They were not arrested, so they have not been charged. So you would believe that there's no indictments. But the fact that at 6:30 in the morning, Commissioner Tisch, modifies Jimmy McCarthy and transfers him, you would think that something was coming down because it came out in the news of the search warrants. And maybe it was just because they were doing the search warrants, just like, Ed Caban, after his phone was taken and his house was searched, he stepped down. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it could be separate. It could be separate investigations. Maybe it just all came down at once, and they wanted to do all the search warrants together. I just can't fathom the idea of being a 2-star chief or a 3-star chief, 4-star chief, and you're home, and the next thing you know, it's 6 in the morning. You got the FBI knocking on your door. It's just got to be heart dropping. And the other question I had was, and I didn't understand, is so they already had, information on Maddrey and stuff, and everything. They already took his phones and things like that. And now to execute a search warrant so far down the road, I would assume that there's additional evidence or there's additional information that they need to get, because otherwise you would have thought they would have got that on the original, search warrants and their original, when they were looking into the case. So I'm thinking, and this is just speculation on my part. If you look at Banks and you look at Harrington and you look at that indictment, and there was a uncharged co-conspirator written in Harrington's indictment. So I think somebody gave up information. Somebody dropped a dime. There's somebody here that maybe that wasn't arrested or wasn't pushed in this indictment, but is now giving information against these individuals, which spurred the necessity to execute search warrants on these 3 people to get evidence based on, somebody must have testified in front of a court, in front of a judge, and said, "Hey, this is new evidence, and we need to execute search warrants." So,
they need probable cause in front of a judge
warrant,
in order to get the search warrant, right?
Yeah.
That there is some type of contraband. Now, again, there is no indictment that we know of. That even it hasn't even been reported that there's an unsealed indictment on any of these individuals. So we got to be careful not to. Again, it all happened yesterday. The Carone brothers, the Northern District, with that scandal, and then this. So kind of everybody's putting it all together. But there is no indictment, and that's the thing. And again, we had search warrants back in January of 2025 on Jeff Maddrey, but that was related to the overtime scandal with Quatisha Epps, which this is being reported has nothing to do with that case.
Right.
So this is a separate case, and it's also been reported that there's another case, possibly against, Jeff Maddrey that's not even a part of this. But
Right.
we'll get into that. Let's play the news clip to give that. And
Okay.
Mike Freed is saying that he's talking about Jimmy McCarthy, put his papers in, which to those who aren't NYPD means that he submitted for his retirement. And I don't know how old Jimmy is, but he's got 41 years on the job, so he's got to be close to aging out. But I did hear that, and I'm not sure if I heard that on another show, that he went to go drop his papers. They can't stop you from retiring. There's implications if you retire without the permission of the police commissioner, that you don't get that good guy letter, that you don't get, so you won't be able to get your pistol license unless,
Right.
There's lawsuits going on right now with other people about getting their pistol licenses in their home rule 218 cards after not getting the good guy letter. So you can't stop someone after 20 years from retiring. However, they can hold it up for processing for 30 days. You have to give the job 30 days to process any kind of trial against you, which rushes the deal. So I did hear that. I didn't see it written anywhere. So, to Mike's point, I don't know. But let's take a look at the news report that came out yesterday on this.
Dave Betteredwell. We begin with the growing NYPD corruption scandal. The FBI investigation started with former Chief of Department James Maddrey and a probe into overtime.
It's now expanded to include a bribery investigation involving Assistant Chief Jimmy McCarthy and former NYPD Deputy Commissioner Tarik Sheppard.
Eyewitness News reporter Darla Miles is at police headquarters in Lower Manhattan. Darla?
Sade and Joe, this is a joint investigation with Internal Affairs, the FBI, and the U.S. Attorney's Office here in the Southern District of New York. They are looking into whether or not former Chief of Department Jeffrey Maddrey and members of his senior leadership took money and or favors or gifts in order for preferential assignments and promotions. FBI agents seen at the home of former NYPD Chief of Department Jeffrey Maddrey from Newscast 7 Wednesday morning. It's been a year and a half since he abruptly stepped down as the highest-ranking uniformed officer, but his 2-year tenure still under scrutiny. The joint investigation now looking into allegations of bribery related to promotions and assignments.
This is an investigation that the NYPD is conducting with the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York.
Search warrants executed at multiple locations today. The home of former Deputy Commissioner of Public Information Tarik Sheppard, who retired last May after 21 years with the department. At times, the center of controversy for his social media posts and tension with former Interim Commissioner Tom Donlin. The home of current Assistant Chief of Manhattan Patrol Borough South, James McCarthy, also searched. He's been with the NYPD 41 years. Commissioner Jessica Tisch issuing a statement saying, "This investigation and our actions this morning are part of the ongoing effort to fulfill that commitment and hold the department to its highest ideals." But the bribery investigation into Maddrey, Sheppard, and McCarthy is separate from the overtime abuse and sexual harassment claims by a former NYPD lieutenant. And today we learned there is a third FBI investigation into Maddrey for reasons unknown. And federal agents have still been silent on their investigation into former NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban, which prompted his resignation in September 2024.
Commissioner Tisch has already shown a real commitment to cracking down on corruption and ensuring that the public servants in the NYPD are held to the highest standards. I'm confident that she will lead us through this process.
Commissioner Tisch, leading since November 2024, brought in to stabilize the NYPD after the departure of 2 commissioners in just 2 months. First, Caban's resignation, and then Donlin, forced to step down in an investigation into document retention from his tenure at the FBI. Now, Assistant Chief McCarthy is the only active duty NYPD member that is part of this investigation. He has been placed on modified duty pending the outcome. Reporting live in Lower Manhattan, Darla Miles, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Yeah. So I mean, that's really all that we're hearing, right? That's really all that we know. And you know, again, there was rumors a year ago of you know, pay for play, you know, for promotions for what we call grade, right? For detective second grade, detective first grade, sergeant special assignment, lieutenant special assignment. There was rumors, and we don't, you know, we hear these rumors, but they're just that. And now there seems to have some, you know, there seems to have some teeth to it. But to your point, absolutely, somebody came forward, you know, and like we always say, you follow the money. It's not going to be very difficult if somebody makes allegations that they paid $10,000, whatever the case may be, for a promotion, for them to show they withdrew $10,000. You know, because who's got $10,000 laying in a shoebox in their closet or under their bed? Not too many cops that I know of. Like you said, either they took it out of their bank account, or they took out a pension loan or some kind of municipal credit loan or something like that in order to make these payments, which I'm sure were in cash. And then if they're making allegations, or if it's someone from the inside, because listen, if you're looking at a time period where someone says, yeah, I paid Jeff Maddrey, or I paid Jimmy McCarthy, or I paid Tarik Sheppard, and there's a time frame, it's not too difficult to look at the discretionary promotions that were given out in that time period, go to a judge, get administrative subpoenas for financial records of everybody that got promoted in a discretionary manner. And then you see certain people within a month, whatever, maybe 2 months, whatever the time frame is, however long they go back, and see that, all right, this person took out a large sum, this person took out a large sum, this person took out a large sum, and then you put it together, then you bring those people in, and they get scared, and people talk. So there's quite possible, you know, way that this went down. But again, we don't know.
Yeah, no, there's definitely going to be a paper trail to it, you know, somewhere, somehow. It's probably not the hardest investigation to really do. You know, you have to see who got promoted, like you just said, and then see who withdrew money from their accounts or anything else. Again, though, what I don't understand is, and especially since the lieutenant in the borough also got suspended or modified. I'm sorry, but and transferred. I don't understand how he plays. Like, I don't know if that was McCarthy's right-hand man. That was somebody that he leaned on. You know, was he the, I don't know, is he the envelope guy? Was he the guy getting it and then going into McCarthy? I don't know how much power McCarthy had, though, over promotions, because listen, I worked for a 2-star chief, and you didn't have that. You didn't have a lot of power, right? You put names up, and you hoped, and you said, hey, I really want this guy. And I mean, you would really have to push. Now, I don't know if McCarthy's getting money and he's floating it up to Maddrey, you know, and maybe, you know, Sheppard or whatever, however it played out. But somehow there's that involvement. So I don't know exactly. When you talk about bribery, right, it means that you're getting a reward for something, you know, and you're paying for it through somebody else, or giving some sort of, you know, service or gratuity or whatever for that person. So I'm I'm still a little confused, and I guess we'll always be confused until we actually get the written indictments or whatever as to what happened. How did McCarthy involvement? When you talk about McCarthy, right? When I remember, as far as I can remember, he's been a one-star chief. Well, he was a one-star chief for a long time. Okay, and I don't think he got 2 stars till he actually went to Manhattan South. And I could say that he's probably been a chief longer than Maddrey, Tarik, Sheppard, definitely Tarik, right? And so with that much knowledge and that much understanding, I don't understand how all of a sudden you go rogue and say, especially when you're coming up, you have 42 years on the job. You're probably close to aging out, right? You have to figure the guy's going to be close to 63 years of age, so he's going to have to leave anyway. So all of a sudden, he decides that, hey, this might be a good investment for me to start taking money. I just don't understand where that comes into play, unless he was, what I could see him doing is Maddrey or somebody, or even Tarik Sheppard when he was a 3-star, or the deputy commissioner, whatever he was, said, hey, I need this favor. I need you to, go to this hotel. I need you to get them tickets for this, get them tickets for that, which I know Manhattan South has that capability because, with the Lower Manhattan Security Initiative, they have the, Times Square Alliance and everything else. So they have a lot of, play with that. So I don't know, maybe that had something to do with it, but to me, it's McCarthy just, I don't know. I didn't think he would do something like that, especially with that much time on the job and how he fell into that web, So it's kind of scary because when you talk about corruption, it's all on the top, right? The poor cops on the ground, right? They're working 12-hour tours. They're doing turnarounds where they got to come back within a couple hours after they get released. And then these guys are sitting pretty, probably eating dinner and hanging out and enjoying themselves. And then on top of that, getting cash or money somehow forwarded to them to get promotions. I mean, that's insane. I just, you know what? And they deserve, if this is true, if the allegations of what we believe is true, then they deserve to be they deserve jail time really at this point, because they're higher up there, and then they should be representing the department and representing integrity. Clearly, they're not.
Yeah, I mean, again, just allegations, and they're not even indicted, which I don't understand. Somebody talked about it earlier. I forget who mentioned it. That these investigations take a long time, but I mean, come on. We're talking 2-3 years now that these investigations and these allegations have been going on. Tom Donlan's lawsuit was not groundbreaking. It basically either confirmed what was going on, gave us a little more insight to what was going on and who the players were, and the abuse of authority with the police commissioner's stamp on promotions that he did not personally approve, because the police commissioner, even though the chief of department gets their selection, the first deputy commissioner gets their selection, and the police commissioner's office, the police commissioner is the one that approves any discretionary promotion. Discretionary promotion is any promotion that's not from a civil service exam where someone passed an exam and their list number comes up to it's their turn to get promoted. So, his lawsuit spelled out they were using the rubber stamp of his name on the promotion paperwork, that Tarik Sheppard, stamped his own promotion, as well as a lot of other promotions that he wasn't in the know about and didn't approve. But where did these promotions come from? Like you said, a 2-star chief doesn't make promotions. They make recommendations. But if you're in an inner circle, and I don't know Chief McCarthy well enough to know what his inner circle is. I don't know who he worked closely with through the years and whatnot. But obviously they have something that they feel is tangible enough to get a search warrant for his residence, that the police commissioner, again, modifies a 2-star chief, which is a big deal. You're actually a city executive as a 2-star chief, as an assistant chief in the NYPD. You don't even belong to the Captain's Endowment Association union. That only goes up to 1-star chief. Once you become a 2-star chief, you become a city executive. So your time records are different. Your days off and vacation and everything else is totally different than a normal uniformed member of the service up to the rank of 1-star chief. But again, you don't make those decisions. You don't say this person's getting promoted, that person's getting promoted. But these investigations are going on for a long time. And we said the same thing the last time in January of 25. You're talking about 16 months ago, that there were search warrants and there were no indictments. The only person that got indicted was the mayor. And then that, got dropped. Some sweetheart deal or whatever, that got dropped.
Yeah. So, and also, I don't know if you had to do it as a precinct commander, but there's also a financial disclosure report that's done. I know that, so you have to basically put down your expenditures and everything that you've done for that year. So they could also have something like this too, where there was maybe money was forwarded or money was given or whatever. And, they didn't report that as well. So yeah, I was looking at that when Lovin said, right? He said Sheppard and Maddrey hated McCarthy. They tried to do him several times. Banks and Adams protected him because of McCarthy's Jewish connections. I don't think McCarthy was a paid promotion BS. So that's my question is what is his involvement? I truthfully, it's more of the hotels and the kickback. I think it's something to do with the immigration money and that was funded to New York City to pay, and there was money funded back, whether or not he got it in dinners or he got it in a bar tab or whatever. I think because I know McCarthy, so there may have been something like that where it was funded through something else, So
Don't forget that under the Adams administration, and these investigations are going back, a couple of years. Don't forget, under the Adams administration, that Timmy Pearson was in charge of all promotions up to the rank of inspector, right? I think. Or no, he took care of he did the detectives, the sergeants and lieutenants discretionary promotions. And then Banks was the one who did the promotions for executives. So there's a possibility of it with that connection, right? Because they were the ones that made the decisions on who was getting promoted. And that came up in the lawsuit as well. And that was also pretty much well known. I don't think that was even a secret that they were the ones that, you weren't getting promoted without Timmy Pearson's okay for under the executive ranks, and you weren't getting promoted without Phil Banks III's sign off for an executive discretionary promotion. So there is still a possibility that it was tied in that way because there's a lot of stuff still under investigation with Banks and Timmy Pearson, and I have to assume that even the former mayor.
Yeah, I mean, I know that we used to put down names for promotions, and it would get sent downtown, and even when the PC would say okay, that list also got sent over to City Hall. And the mayor would have to look at it, and oftentimes it would get sent back, and we would have to redo the list, or the person would just be crossed off. You'd be like, "What happened? I put in this person, the PC signed off." So, and to your point earlier, yes, the police commissioner, I've seen the actual lists from the police commissioner where it said the discretionary promotion to deputy chief, to inspector, deputy inspector, all on that list, and you see his signature on it. So, for Donlin, who, well, now I can understand where Tarik Sheppard gets involved in it, because if Tarik Sheppard's just having the auto pen or giving the rubber stamp was usually what you saw on, like when you got a commendation, or you got like a certificate for doing something from the PC. It would be a rubber stamp. That guy's not signing everything. His hand would be broken. So that's where you used to see it. I could see where he was probably stamping that. If the allegation is that himself and Maddrey are getting money, and then they're just rubber stamping it, and Donlin does no knowledge of it at all, I could see that happening. And then where again where I have a problem is where McCarthy comes into play. Now it could be completely unrelated, or it could be something different. It could be that giving favoritism to them, Mike. So I don't know if McCarthy, if what was said earlier, if McCarthy wasn't in favor of Maddrey and Sheppard, you could also speculate that maybe he was trying to get in favor, so he was doing things that normally you wouldn't do as a borough CO, trying to help the chief of department or chief of whatever he was, DCPI. He changed like 5 times, so I don't know, So that, and to me, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but a man with 42 years on the job, knows the things, the implications that can happen, and to take that risk at the end is stupid, man.
People think that they're untouchable.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you think all these dirty cops always, eventually these dirty cops, at any level go down if they're dealing with dirt. Somebody said you lay down with dogs, you're going to wake up with fleas. You think that you're dealing with a drug dealer, or you're dealing with a robber, or you're dealing with somebody and you're giving information off the computer. As soon as they get pinched, the first thing they do is, hey, I can give you Ron Layson. I can give you Rob Lukash. They did X, Y, and Z for me. You're not dealing with people of honor, and you're not doing honorable things. So you get what you deserve. Someone said in here before, I think it was, who was it? Let me see if I can look back.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. So it'll all be uncovered. I just wonder if more involvement in it. There could be other people. So.
I'm sure there's going to be collateral damage, without a doubt. And it might be it doesn't matter. They'll still be able to collect their pensions. It's all smoke and mirrors. Will be swept under the rug in a couple of months. I don't know. Again, the initial search warrants that were executed, the initial phones that were confiscated by the federal government, you never saw indictments come down except for Mayor Adams. And we saw where that went. Now, does that mean that the rest of the investigations surrounding his cell phone and the other cell phones and his 6 burner phones that he used to carry just all went away? I don't know. What's going on with this? We don't know. We don't know what's going on with this. And somebody had texted me and asked me the same question, kind of similar, that they'll get their pension. What happens if they do get indicted and they do get arrested, right? What happens to their pension? Well, there's the drop law, right, that says that once you pass 20 years of service, you have to be convicted of a felony to lose your pension. But it never happens because people retire before they're convicted. Now, I don't know if there.
Hold on. I want to ask you a question about that, because it was my understanding that you never lose the pension. What it does is it reverts back to your 20th year or whatever. So, but you're not going to lose it, because I thought though that law that you just spoke about, that was there so that they couldn't use. You can get convicted of something After 20, if you got convicted of something, you wouldn't lose your pension. So it wasn't like, because otherwise, if you think about it, the crime that was committed after your 20th shouldn't cost you for the rest of your life, right? So I don't know if we could look that up and stuff, but my understanding was that it did not lose your pension completely, is that you ended up reverting back to your 20th year, and your pension would be based on that or something. But I mean, I could be wrong, but that was my understanding, that it was not so much, it was not, because if you, let's say you got convicted of a felony assault afterwards, domestic, so you would have to, if you got convicted, then you would lose your pension for the rest of your life. I don't know if that I thought that's what that law protected, was that you weren't subjected to losing your pension for the rest of your life. So,
all right. So under existing New York City Police Pension Fund rules and the New York State Constitution, active duty officers with at least 20 years of service cannot lose their retirement benefits unless convicted of a felony. If they are fired or dismissed for any other reason, they are generally still entitled to their earned service pension. So service pension, so wherever you're at. 20-year rule. For many officers, tier 2, departmental rules stipulate that if an officer is dismissed for any reason other than a felony conviction and has at least 20 years of allowable police service, they are deemed to have retired on the date of dismissal and suffer no loss of pension rights. So if I'm at 30 years with 15 years as a captain or above, I still retire as a chief's pension unless I'm convicted. So, and that's as of the date of dismissal. So you take Paul Saraceno. He was a deputy chief when he was dismissed by the police department, but he wasn't convicted of a felony. So even though he was dismissed, it's deemed that he was retired on the day that he's dismissed, and he still maintains his pension benefit.
right, okay.
Felony forfeitures, police pensions are generally protected, but a 2017, this was something that I did learn, a 2017 constitutional amendment, Proposal 2, allowed courts to reduce or revoke a public pension of a public officer convicted of a felony that has a direct or actual relationship to performance of their official duties. Forfeiture is not strictly automatic. The Supreme Court must review factors like the seriousness of the crime and the hardship to the dependents. So basically, here, if
They gotta leave. They gotta retire.
If he retires, Jimmy McCarthy retires, right? Jeff
Yeah, he's
Maddrey
good.
retired, right? So
Maddrey's done. Maddrey's already, he's out. So no matter what happens now, his pension doesn't get touched.
It does matter, because if he's convicted of a felony that was directly related to his
because it
duty,
reverts back.
then the pension fund can appeal to the Supreme Court to review the factors like the seriousness of the crime and the hardship of the dependents to see, and they can revoke your pension. But I mean, I don't know that they would. That's a far stretch. And you know, the seriousness of the allegations, they're very serious. You know, integrity is the number one thing, right? And you're talking about upper executives. These are people that are running the police department. These are people that everybody is supposed to look up to, right? That are supposed to lead by example. And we have talked about it ad nauseum that the lack of proper leadership is causing that ripple effect throughout the entire department, because the rank and file don't have confidence in the leadership because of incidents specifically like this.
Yeah, no. How can you expect the boots on the ground to trust you and do everything right when they know that the whole upper echelons is totally corrupt? I mean, just the fact that with the Caban brothers, right, and the incidences that were happening with that, and now you're looking at Maddrey and you're looking at that, and Tarik Sheppard, all of these things which happened under Adams, right? All of this thing. So here's a guy that kind of skated through everything with a pardon by or not even a pardon, but whatever happened with him and Trump or whatever. So it kind of laid the groundwork that maybe these guys, if the mayor was telling these guys, hey, don't worry about it, I got you, or do this and do that, and then everybody was good with it, it was all golden, and then they just allowed it to all happen. So you could see where the problems started with under Adams. I mean, all right, Tisch is saying I'm cleaning up corruption. Well, she's cleaning up some of the corruption that happened in the previous administration too. It's really not. It really wasn't her administration, okay? Because and that's what I want to know. What McCarthy really did. Is McCarthy involved in something currently, or is this another incident in the past? So, I mean, kudos to her, I guess, for cleaning up the garbage that she inherited, and she has to make sure that whatever happens, maybe the transfer, like you said, the severity of a transfer of a 2-star chief to, I believe, was Support Services Bureau, right, the dumping ground. What is that going to be the everybody's going to look at it and say, oh crap, she's serious, and I don't want that to happen to me, and maybe that will eliminate if there is any other further corruption and stuff. But I think the problem with the corruption is it stemmed from the top, Friends, Pearson, Maddrey, all of this, and then everybody kind of fell into play with it. So you can see when I think somebody said, I think, did John say it? I think when the fish stinks, it stinks from the head, right? So you got to be careful, and we used to say, SRG would be, you stop a riot, you cut off the snake's head. Who's leading the riot? You cut off the snake's head and everything stops. So it's just, it's very interesting. So scary.
Mike is here. This guy's hot and cold. I love how La Cosa Nostra guys who flipped have podcasts now talking about who flips. Sweet irony. I don't believe he's talking about us.
No, my wife watches those guys, and they really go into in deep information about what they did. But some of them did La Cosa Nostra because they went to jail. So they didn't flip, but when they came out, then they told the story,
Dowd is constantly out there. I don't know if he has his own podcast, but he's constantly out talking and everything else. And like he says, I know the podcast I misread this, Mike. I'm sorry. I believe I know the podcast that he's talking about because I see it a lot on the shorts. You see clips of it where he talks about, and a lot of them do now. He's 100% right. They go out, they've done their time, and they come out, and now they're talking about all the ins and outs of how the mafia operated.
Yep,
it's crazy. Just a lady checking in from X. I'm late, trying to catch up. Appreciate you coming in. I think it's the first time I'm seeing you in the chat. You can only see the comments from X, which are very minimal. We have over 600 people watching the show today, right now. So that's good especially for a Thursday night, right? And we recommend, Just a Lady, come on over to YouTube, to the Finest Unfiltered channel, and you can get in here. And as you see, we interact a lot on this show with the chat, and we put a lot of the comments up. You're not going to be able to see the comments unless I put them up. If you're in YouTube, watching on YouTube, you can watch the interactive live chat as we speak, and you also get involved. So I recommend that people jump over because we have a lot of people. We have 3, 4, almost, we have over 400 people watching on X right now. So, we recommend jump over to the YouTube channel. And then it's Thursday night. Our friend Terry must be busy, so I'll throw it out there for him. Let's make sure we hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Get the algorithm going. Listen, we're over, 170. Let's see. Let's take a look real quick.
I'm just real quick. I want
Yeah.
92 Charlie talked about the guy that did it. It was Michael Francesi.
Yes, that's him.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I see him all the time. Right. We're
Yeah.
up to 276,000 subscribers on the New York's finest retired unfiltered network. So
92 Charlie also caught me. I was muted.
who you were muted?
I was, yeah. You were talking. I was talking, but I was muted. So he got me on that too. So,
Oh boy. So
yeah, no, that's a good one.
I think, listen, until the actual indictments come out, we're not going to know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see. But again, I'm going to go back to January of 2025 when other search warrants were executed, when a myriad of phones were confiscated, and we never heard anything. We never saw anything but the mayor's indictment, which was, a debacle. The case was ordered to be dropped. 6 U.S. attorneys, assistant U.S. attorneys, left their job because of their integrity and felt that, it was not the right thing to do after all the work that was put into those indictments to just to drop them. The judge in the case that dropped the case said, you're not getting a second shot. If you want to drop the charges, it has to be, with, I forget, with or without prejudice, which one allows you to bring the charges back. But whichever it was, the U.S. Attorney's Office was trying to do that, and the judge says, no. You're not going to hold it over his head. You want to drop the charges, but you can't bring the charges back again. And that's how he got out of it, But what else with this?
No, so I definitely, in my personal opinion, I think there's definitely somebody that's either flipped or decided to come forward and is giving up these names, and things have happened fast. For McCarthy, 42 years on a job or whatever. Yeah, I wouldn't take the chance to get convicted of a felon, especially by the feds. You could go in there and the feds will say, tell us the truth or whatever, or if you're lying to us, and then the next thing you know, they're charging you with lying to a federal officer and stuff. So in his best interest, he should put his papers in. So what? You retire without a good guy letter or whatever. I don't. Where at 63, 64, where does he really think he's going? So and does he need that? Does he really need that good guy letter? You can get a gun permit somewhere else if you really want it. I mean, maybe you won't get the HR 218, but you know what? You save yourself and you save your pension, you save your family. So I could see that. I don't know how much time the lieutenant has on, but I could also see one of those two flipping too. So
he's got over 20 years. He worked for me in the past.
Yeah.
He worked for me in Queens.
I wouldn't.
And I'm being told by Mom that with prejudice means you cannot be recharged. She Googled it. So
thank God for Mom.
And so what they did was they tried to drop the charges without prejudice so that they could recharge. And the judge said, no, you have to do it with prejudice, which means you cannot be recharged. Thank you very much for that. Yes.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with those two.
Mike's saying we have to change to Thursday nights because we have more viewers right now.
Thursday is payday.
Yeah, but it's a very interesting topic. It's a very interesting topic. It just dropped down yesterday, and I think people do want to hear. It's about executives, and I think people want to see if we're going to just stick up for them because they're executives, because we were executives. You're a deputy, you were a retired deputy chief, I'm retired inspector. That's not the case. We speak the truth. We stick up for what we believe is right and what we believe people did right. We'll call out when people are wrong, and we'll be harsh when we believe it deserves to be harsh. And we'll say that people, I talk about it all the time, right? The mistakes of the heart and mistakes of the mind. These are obviously mistakes of the mind. These people knew what they were doing was wrong, and they intentionally went forward and did these things. So this way, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, well,
They
you
get
know,
what they deserve. And
absolutely. You know, because here's the thing: there's very good people out there that deserve promotions. Okay, you talk about the officer that stopped the terrorist, right? That deserves a promotion. You know, how many people did
I got something on that for a little bit too.
how many people that were put in names and we put in that didn't get it, right? That we wanted discretionary promotions for them. So there was a lot of things that when you start telling people to pay me money and you're going to get promoted and you know you're going to get this and you're going to get that, well, it's not fair. And that's where it ends with myself is if it's not fair, then you have to call it out. So if these guys, you know, don't do the right thing for everybody and don't treat everybody equal in that position as chief of department, you know, or a borough commander, you have a lot of power and say what were your personnel, okay? And you can get the good people promoted, the people that work for you promoted, the people that deserve it. Now, if some Joe Schmuck is going to get it because he get $10,000 or $15,000 and pays off the chief of department or a two-star chief or whatever, well, that's bullshit because that's not fair to everybody else. So we look at fairness, and in my opinion, what was done was I knew Jeff Maddrey, right? So the allegations of what he did in that office and what was done with you know the pay for promotions and the kickbacks and everything else, well, that's wrong. Jeff absolutely saw the corruption side and followed the wrong path, and he doesn't deserve anything really that everybody else deserves. So it's not, you have to be fair, right? And Tarik Sheppard, I would never in my right mind push the police commissioner out of the way, out of a photo or do anything. I don't care who you are. So here's the thing, you have to look at the fairness, and I think that's what we do. We do it impartially here on this podcast because we were executives and we know what happens within the inner works of the NYPD. And when the things are bad and corrupt, we'll call it out. When things are okay or good, we'll back up the individual. So I just think it's very, very, you know, and I agree with 92 Charlie. It's disgraceful that your bosses, your upper echelons, your department, right? When we say, you know, the NYPD, you know, who is it? It's those guys up there. They're the ones, the policymakers. They're the ones that hold the promotions and everything else. So when they're corrupt, it just erodes the whole department. And how can boots on the ground really want to do anything if they know that the upper echelons is totally corrupt and only in it for themselves? Because that's what, you know, you and I have spoke about it in the past. What was the best thing about getting up to the you know, a higher rank was that you could push people to get promoted. I remember, you know, getting the list from downtown, and they asked for, okay, they want 3 names for first grade detective, they want 10 names for second grade detective, and then they want names for specialist shields. And then when you got the executive promotions, right? Okay, you know, you could vote for people for you to get promoted to your rank, to the rank, and then ranks below you. So I think that was the best part because you're able to say, all right, now I recognize people that do great work, and now I can push for them. And when these guys are pushing it all they're doing is pushing it for themselves, and it's a joke. And really, they deserve to lose their pensions, and they deserve jail time if in fact they are guilty.
100%, 100%. And listen, and we just to clarify, you know, when we're talking about, you know, we're not talking about anybody on this network. When we're talking about people that seem to have a negative connotation and are always looking to, you know, seem to be one-sided and don't come at things from a fair and unbiased vantage point. I think everybody on this network gives their honest and open opinion, unfiltered, if you would, opinion and perspective from their life experiences, from their work experiences. And that is something that's very important to this network, that we're going to call bullshit when we see bullshit, that we're going to stick up for the cops when we think that they're being wrongly targeted or accused or portrayed in social media. And listen, we don't all agree. Rob and I don't agree on certain instances when we're breaking down videos. Eric, John, and Marlon don't agree when they're breaking down videos. They break down videos from a different perspective than we do, and sometimes we disagree with their perspective. They disagree with our perspective. Tommy and Pete on the 10-4 Tavern come at it from an investigatory background, and that's what it's about, right? Eric says it. Opposition meets opportunity. So, but we speak our truth. And we do it in an unbiased manner. We're not doing it to advance anyone's personal or financial gains. We're not being led around by the nose by anyone else. And, just being, free advertisement for certain attorneys.
I don't know who you're talking about.
No idea. But Nolan wants to call in. Sorry, Nolan, not happening.
I think Tommy Joyce is going to give him your phone number, your home number, and your cell. So,
yeah, he spoke with Tommy. They had a good conversation. Yeah, we know Nolan. Tommy, we talked to Tommy, and listen, we're going to make an announcement at the end of the show. It's been spoken about we'll talk about it at the end of the show. It's been spoken about in the chat. I guess we'll mention it real quick right now, that the 10-4 Tavern has announced that they had their last guest on Tuesday night, and they're going to have one more show before they wrap things up. So, we'll have some words about that and their show at the end. They'll have more. It's not a negative thing. It's not leaving for the same reason. There's a different show left. They're not going to another network. They're just closing down the tavern. And so we'll talk about that at the end of the show when we do our wrap up. But yeah, it keeps coming up in the chat. So I thought we'd just address it. You want to touch on that? Or you want to wait till after?
no, well, I'll just say, I'm not going to say that they're closed. I know they're going to say they're closing the tavern. I'm going to say they're closing it for renovations, because I always want to give them the opportunity that maybe they'll come back. So because I really enjoyed it. That was my Tuesday nights. Yeah. I watch it, and the fact that they brought on these, they brought on some pretty high level guests, when you talk about Chief Anamone and things like that. So, Gary McCarthy. So, I mean, it was already, and there was really some good conversations and a lot of good talk from just, cops and detectives that they brought on, the stories that they told, especially from the Detective Bureau, stuff that I was never a detective. I was never in the Bureau, so I didn't know, but I was very, interested in hearing the stories and interests. So it was, they really did a great job. And like I said, I think that hopefully it's just closed for renovations, and eventually the tavern doors open back up, when it can, so I understand they have a lot going on. So, the best to both of them, best to Pete and Tommy. And, listen, they're still our friends. So, they're still part of the network as far as I'm concerned. So all the best.
Absolutely.
To them,
Absolutely. I put out a post today, responding to their post. Like I said, their tagline was basically, telling the stories that need to be told by the people that need to tell them. And that was the cool thing, is that they brought on investigators, they brought on executives, they brought on prosecutors who were personally giving firsthand accounts about cases that we've all watched on TV and followed in the news, growing up to current times, So, yeah, it's going to be, it sucks that, they, that they have to move on. Again, they'll be making, I think Tommy said that, tomorrow they'll be making further statements about it. But again, listen, they're very busy in their professional lives after the job. Pete started a very demanding second career, just changed jobs recently. And they're very busy and have a lot of things going on in their personal lives. So, people don't realize this takes a lot, it's not just, hey, let's jump on, and I think they thought that. I think that they thought, because they used to always say that, that was the genesis for their show, was that they had weekly conversations. They were always on the phone having a conversation like, hey, you know what? After watching The Finest Unfiltered, and so why don't we start our own show, and we could have that conversation on the air and bring other people into the conversation. And it worked out. It was great. It was a different way, a different view, a different perspective from Oz and from John and Eric and Marlins and from, Sal's, when Sal's show was on the air with us. And they contributed to that 276,000 subscribers on the network, without a doubt. And like I said, they came on as just another show on the network after Oz, and they're leaving as friends and brothers to me. So without a doubt. So, I'll throw this up now, we appreciate you guys, thanks for the memories. This is, I don't know why that's got a thing in the middle of it. Did I miss something?
I was waiting for it to play.
I know. I don't know. Listen, I'm still learning with this ChatGPT crap. I don't know why that has that.
Yeah, no, I mean, they did a great job, and they were able to get a lot of great people on. So
yeah,
they will be missed. So we'll see. Hopefully they come back when they can, do a couple shows here and there or whatever. So,
well, they're always welcome on our show. To jump in and come on, and we'd love to have them on. Love to hear more about. I never finished Pete's book, but it's an amazing story about the Fast and the Furious. So, all right, let's see. Let's catch up. I think I'm pretty far behind.
So the new borough commander from Manhattan South is from Staten Island, right? So I think
Yeah,
I think
very
I think they
popular.
like her, right? Is she?
Yeah.
She's pretty good. So, and you know what? Historically, the Patrol Borough of Manhattan South led to a third promotion, a third star. Morris was a third star there. I think, was it Hall, like big, the big
Hoyle.
the monster chief or whatever. I mean, I know Nelson got a third star also in Brooklyn, but for the most part, it was always the guy, which I never understood, because that individual technically works for the chief of patrol, and then you make him the same rank as the chief of patrol, so he could probably go tell the chief of patrol, pound salt, I'm not doing it. Although you still have a chief of department there, but so I don't know. McCarthy never got that. He was there a long time, so I'll see. I was surprised that Big Timmy Boudet didn't rise to the rank of new borough commander there, because he runs all those details. He was the big Nick guy, but he didn't. He did lead the snowball incident though. So, but other than that, so we'll see. Any word on who's getting Staten Island?
I did not see. I did not.
I haven't heard anything. So,
but Yeah. Anything more on this before we
No, I
transition?
think, we'll, like you said, I'm sure we'll be talking about it more when we get the information on the indictment, or when more chips fall from Grace, after the big cut comes down. So we'll see. Did I lose you?
No, I'm sorry. I was just reading Mike M's
Oh.
comment from X. It says many prospective employers take note of the fact if you're associated with a podcast that knocks their previous employer, can make getting a job in the private sector difficult from the employer. I get that. Tommy and Pete never did that. Tommy and Pete, like I said, they took it from a different. They took it from a different perspective. They took it from an investigative perspective. Pete was in charge of the squad, cold case squad. Pete was a homicide detective, and then he went into the federal government and worked with the ATF. So, listen, we're critical of our former employers. I'm not looking for another job, but I think we're being honest. We don't do it in a malicious manner. I don't think that anybody's trying to be malicious on this network. That we're just calling out what it is. And listen, I understand that. Believe me, I understand that point. As my previous position in the candidate assessment division, we scrub social media, and I think it probably would have been a problem if somebody was on there, making comments like ACAB and everything else, like these CCRB investigators. I don't know if that would have precluded them from being a police officer, but they would have had to explain themselves. So I understand what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from. And again, we're not knocking anybody personally. What we do is we bring to light what we feel is either unfair treatment or mismanagement, and we give our perspective on what we think could have been done better or should have been done better. Does it mean that we're right? Doesn't mean that we're right. It just means that I have, 31 years of experience, 21 as an executive. Rob's got 35 years experience, with rose to the rank of deputy chief. That doesn't happen. So you're getting a perspective from people that have been out there. Doesn't mean that we're right. Just like if we were 100% right on everything, then we would agree on everything, right? But Rob says one thing, I say another thing. John says one thing, Eric says another thing, But yet they were both lieutenants. We were both executives for a very long time, held numerous positions. These are our perspectives and our thoughts. And I say it all the time. This is not a newscast. This is a podcast. So we're giving our perspective and our thoughts on what we think could have done differently, or again, try to give advice on how people can navigate these landmines of today's job. Welcome. I see Mike Marino's jumping in.
Mikey.
Remembered it was Thursday night. So, and there he is. It was his friend, Mr. Nolan. They'll be going at it in a few minutes. But yeah. So, any other? No, we kind of got off a little bit.
No, I gotta agree with you. I mean, we try to tell the truth, and that's what from our opinion and from our experience. So, if that's said, and future or past employers have an issue with it, so be it. Somebody has to tell the emperor they're not wearing clothes. And at this point, I'm not afraid to say it. But if people are doing something that I don't think was right, or what I haven't seen in the past, I give my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's all it is. And people want to, and I understand it. I understand it from Tom and Pete's perspective. If there's certain things that they're doing, and yeah, people can be critical of you because of what you say. but I never saw anything critical said on 10-4 Tavern. It was just basic interviews of really good information. So, but and that's how I feel. So,
Fixed
hey, you
it.
got rid of the thing.
I fixed it.
Nice.
All right. Again, we'll mention it again at the end for those who aren't here. We have listen. We have a lot of people watching on X or listening on X tonight. Again, we recommend jump over to the YouTube channel, find us Unfiltered network, open up the show. You can get involved in the interactive chat. You can watch the interactive chat. It gets difficult sometimes. I get a little distracted as I've just been now trying to do things behind the scene because it's a self-produced show, and if I don't bring the chat up onto the screen, you're not going to be able to see it, and then sometimes it's difficult to follow even on the screen if you're watching it on your smartphone or whatever. But get in there, jump over, and we appreciate everybody that's joining us today. So we want to transition over into the next topic. There's a story in the news about a barricaded person in Brooklyn where he was letting rounds go inside of a house. Wind up, he had 2 guns, and he was letting some rounds go. And police got there. Family members were able to get out of the house, and then there was a standoff. Let's take a listen to the press conference. I'm not going to probably listen to the whole thing. Well, let's take a listen to the press conference that'll give the details by Commissioner Tisch.
Good afternoon. I am here to brief on a barricaded perpetrator incident that resulted in 1 police officer being shot in the Bedford-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn. The information that I'm about to provide is preliminary and it is subject to change. At approximately 5:45 this morning, officers from the 79th Precinct responded to 190 Kosciuszko Street after a neighbor called 911 to report hearing approximately 7 shots fired inside a 2-story brownstone. Upon arrival, officers from the 79th Precinct heard additional gunfire coming from inside of the residence. Patrol officers attempted to make contact with the individual inside. After receiving no response, they made entry into the location where they observed a male holding a firearm. Officers withdrew from the residence at that time and requested additional specialized resources. At that time, the subject's wife and his son were able to safely exit the location. They relayed to police at the scene that the subject has a history of mental illness. Neither was injured. However, there was an elderly couple that was unable to exit 1 floor above. Members of the Emergency Service Unit, the hostage negotiation team, TARU, SRG, and additional personnel from the 79th Precinct responded to the scene, established a perimeter, and evacuated adjoining residences. For more than 2 hours, both hostage negotiators and the family made multiple attempts to establish a dialogue with the perpetrator. Officers were able to get in touch with the elderly couple on the 2nd floor of the residence and instructed them to lock their bedroom door. Around 8:30 a.m., the subject began throwing large items out of the rear window into the backyard below where our officers were staged. These items included a microwave, a lamp, pots and pans, and other kitchen goods. Drone footage at the time showed the perpetrator clearly holding a handgun in his left hand. He continued to fire rounds from inside the apartment. No officers were struck at that time. At 8:52 a.m., officers from the Emergency Service Unit entered the location and encountered the individual at the top of the stairs on the same floor as the elderly couple, armed with a firearm. Officers gave multiple direct orders to drop the gun, but he refused. The perpetrator fired at our officers, striking one officer in the leg. At least 4 officers returned fire, striking the perpetrator. He was transported to Woodhull Hospital, where he was pronounced deceased. Over the course of the incident, the perpetrator fired approximately 20 rounds from inside of the residence. The incident was captured on police body-worn camera and via multiple drones. 2 firearms were recovered at the scene, a Beretta handgun equipped with an extended magazine and a Jimenez Arms .380 caliber handgun. The officer who was shot is 15-year veteran detective Matthew Gale of the Emergency Service Unit. Detective Gale was immediately removed from the scene and transported here to Kings County Hospital, where he is being treated for a gunshot wound that resulted in a tibial fracture of the left leg. He is currently in stable condition. I just visited with Detective Gale and his wife, and I want to thank the doctors, the nurses, and the staff at Kings County Hospital for the care that they are providing to him. I am grateful to report that Detective Gale was in good spirits, and we are praying for a full and speedy recovery. The perpetrator is identified as 48-year-old Lamin Simmons. At this point in the investigation, we believe this incident began as a dispute involving the elderly couple on the 2nd floor. What happened this morning is a reminder that the men and women of the NYPD routinely place themselves between danger and the people that they serve. They enter situations that are uncertain and volatile and often life-threatening. This morning, Detective Gale put his life on the line doing exactly that. I want to thank every cop who responded, particularly members of our emergency service unit. We like to say that when the public needs help, they call the police. And when the police need help, they call ESU. ESU handles some of the most complex and dangerous assignments in this city, and today, once again, they met that danger with uncommon valor. I'm now going to turn it over to Mayor Mamdani.
Thank you, Commissioner Tisch. As you just heard from my police commissioner, earlier this morning, an NYPD officer was shot while responding to a call of shots fired on Kosciuszko Street between Marcy and Tompkins Avenue in Bed-Stuy. The officer was shot in the leg and, as you heard, is currently being treated here at Kings County Hospital. I just visited with his wife in the hospital, and I'm grateful that he is expected to survive, and I'm grateful to all of the incredible nurses and doctors and staff here at Kings County Hospital for doing everything that they can. The alleged perpetrator was shot on the scene and has since died. The first 911 call came in right before 6 a.m. The first officer on scene responded soon after, and the ESU officer who was wounded this morning responded to his call. I want to thank every person involved at each step of this incident, every professional who responded to an immensely challenging situation with professionalism and with calmness. Every day, thousands of NYPD officers go to great lengths to protect their fellow New Yorkers. What this officer from ESU did this morning, Detective Matthew Gale, is what so many officers do each morning. He put on his uniform, he left his house, he said goodbye to his family, and he went to his job to keep our city safe. When New Yorkers call 911, they expect someone to show up. What this officer and so many others today did was exactly that. I want to thank the first responders and the officers who acted so swiftly in the aftermath of this shooting, and I know that all New Yorkers will join me in wishing Detective Gale a full and speedy recovery. Thank you very much.
So we do not know which of the weapons was fired. We do know that there was a weapon that was fired, but we don't know if it is the two that we are showing there.
All right. So, I mean, listen, a lot there. And, you know, I put out in the preview, I think people are going to get an unparalleled perspective from you, being an executive captain in emergency services all the way up through the executive officer of the entire special operations division. You've been on these scenes multiple times. You've been on what we call the stack, and you can explain what that is, going in on these dynamic entries and how that happened. But, building up to it, cops did a great job. They responded. The family got out. They established a perimeter. This guy's letting rounds go. They didn't try to cowboy up and go in. They called for the people, for the professionals. And like the commissioner says, like we've said, you said, anybody in the NYPD knows it. When the public needs help, they call 911. When cops need help, they call the emergency services unit. And that's not bullshit. That's not just some tagline. That's not just something that's the God's honest truth that, we used to say the boys with the toys, but when the shit hits the fan, that's who you want to come. And we've talked about it from the executive level, how they are so professional and they are so well trained, and the emergency services unit officers are the creme de la creme, where I take directions from them, you take directions from them, because they are the ones that know what needs to get done. So with this situation, just to answer a few, just to answer questions that may come up, there was no domestic violence history with the NYPD. The family says that he had some issues, but it wasn't documented with the NYPD. So they didn't know what they were walking into. When you look at your phone, when you look at this job and you do a job background history of the location, which is one of the things that people always do, that we do, right? So we know what we're walking into. There's no domestic history in that house. So it's difficult. But there was also an elderly couple in the apartment upstairs. So there was still a threat of life, which you're going to explain changes the dynamics of the situation of we're going to wait it out to we're going to have to move in. Right. So, but, just let everybody know, like, listen, the hostage negotiations team, TARU, the Technical Assistance Response Unit, all these specialized units that come and they set up, we get the drones up. The drone saw him with the gun in his hand. You talked about it in the past where you had one of the first uses of a drone in a barricaded job 2 years prior to Kaz Daughtry claiming, the invention of the drone unit, and utilizing that asset that the police department has to give you the information to make the proper tactical decisions. So, why don't you explain how a job like this breaks down, and, then how the tactical entry goes in. And, I'm going to have a question for you when we get to the actual exchange of gunfire. But
I just want to
take it away, man. This is all you, brother.
I'm gonna try. Well, it's just the powder mill. It is me. I just he threw that up there. He's asking a question, so it is me. But so what I'm gonna say is the first of all, with the press conference, I just want to address that real quickly. I think Tisch did a terrible job. There was a lot of run-on sentences. She needs to slow it down a little bit. I don't know if she was nervous because Mayor Mandani was there. And I agree with what TC said. TC said, "Hey, it was a power trip right there when it was another one where she actually, the mayor goes, my police commissioner.
Yeah,
It's not your police commissioner. It's the city's police commissioner. So, but I think she did a terrible job, and usually I don't go against her and some of her things, but she needs to slow down a little bit because there's a lot of run-on sentences. But so let's start off with the job, right? So the 7-9 gets the job, and what I consider they did a good job when they got there, right? So they assessed it, they saw that it was the guns involved, they knew what was going on, and then the most important thing for anybody on those jobs is the perimeter, because what ESU hates the most is sitting on a vacant house, because if the perimeter is not set up and the perpetrator jumped out the back window and is 90Z, as we would say, gone on arrival, the worst thing you can do is have everybody sitting on a house waiting for somebody to find out if where that person is. So they did a good job. They whatever perimeter they set up and they maintained, they did a good job. And then of course they call for emergency service, like you said. So that's the first thing the cops are going to do. Call for emergency service. TARU, the Technical Assistance Response Unit, which responds to all the jobs, that need assistance with the issue, all the technical equipment, a lot of cameras, pole cameras. They have other cameras that, will roll on the floor and stuff. Drones, like you said, the first drone case I had was actually in Brooklyn, where the individual had a gun. It turned out to be an imitation pistol, but we were able to see it, up in that apartment from a drone outside the window. So yeah, Kaz was not the inventor of the drone warfare. That was done a long time before, and the TARU guys did a great job. So, and then of course the hostage negotiation team, right? You talk about legendary Jack Cambria, who was a prior E-man. He was on 10-4 Tavern. If you want to go back and look at that episode, he gave a lot of great information, and to this day he goes around the country, in fact around the world, talking about hostage negotiation. So those are the three units that cohesively work together with the emergency service unit. And after the perimeter is set up, what you're going to do is you're going to try to make contact. So whether it could be a verbal contact. I saw a Bearcat in front, so because there was a firearm involved, it's usually a Bearcat is put out in front of the location, and that's usually put there as a point of cover, right? Because otherwise the police officers have no cover. There's also a PA. You try to make a dialogue. Another thing that the TARU has is a throw phone. They're able to throw a phone into the location, and it goes directly to the H&T command post, and they can actually talk to a negotiator and stuff if they pick up. There's other stuff involved with that camera. I'm not going to get into it because I don't want to give out trade secrets. But that camera, is a direct line, because sometimes sometimes the negotiator will call a cell phone or a landline, and the person will just hang up. Right? They don't want to talk, and eventually, you introduce a phone, and then they pick it up and they'll talk to the individual. So as the job progressed, I see that they had no contact with the individual, right? And I was on a barricade for about 24 hours where an individual was actually throwing stuff out the window at us, and they're on the second floor, and they threw like everything on the entrance. It was in the Bronx. They threw down couches and everything, which made it extremely difficult later on to actually try to get into that apartment. But this individual was throwing stuff out the window, so you knew he was in there. Try to make contact as best you can. Again, you can use a PA, the public announcement system in the Bearcat. You can use it, bullhorns or everything else. You can try to get in touch with him. If the individual doesn't want to talk to you, they're not going to talk to you. And then eventually, it's decided that. So here's my main concern. There's two individuals upstairs on the second floor, and they're told to go into the back room, a bedroom, and lock the door. Okay, that's great. You think about a bedroom door, right? It's probably a hollow core door. Even if it's a hard wooden door, there's really not that much. It's basically a point of cover, or concealment, really. Cover, not point of cover, right? It's just concealment. So that person could come up and kick that door and get in there, whatever. So the fact that that's in there, that's a concern for me. So eventually they're told, I guess the emergency service unit they're going to be told to make an entry. So normally, like you said, the stack, right? So you have the first bunker team, okay? And the bunker team consists of a handheld bunker. That handheld bunker comes up about waist high, and it's usually a handgun. Behind them is the MP5 operator, Heckler & Koch MP5 9mm. And then there's another team duplicates that. So so that's a picture. It's not the exact bunker, but that's a similar bunker.
Yeah, I couldn't find the right exact one.
They're hard to find. So, and then behind this individual, if he was bunker team number one, it would be the MP5 operator, and then another bunker team, then another MP5 operator, and then the sergeant is usually in the 5th spot. And then behind them are what's called hands, so or forcible entry. So you might have somebody with a rabbit tool, which is a small little tool that can open a door, or it could be the Halligan, different types of tools. It could also be simunitions if you want to, less than lethal and stuff like that. So that's all in the stack. And then usually me as the captain, I was in the back of the stack. My job was to make sure that the incident commander didn't come up behind me, because normally they'd be like, "Hey, what's going on?" No, get back. And then what I see is the team, went in to try to make contact with the individual, and they were met with gunfire. Now I understand that 4 people, I think 4 MOS is shot. And first of all, I'm very happy that Detective Matthew Gale he's been released from the hospital. His injuries. I get different stories. One said he was hitting the tibia. I had heard he was hitting possibly in the femur, but whatever the case may be, if it was in the tibia, it's the lower leg. So hopefully everything's all right. I know Mike Marino. Huh?
I'll let you take a breath there, and I'll just show.
Thank you.
Just show real quick the video of him being released from the hospital, just so you can take a breath, grab yourself some water. Arms! Order! Arms! Not that it's funny, but I actually was coming westbound on the Belt Parkway when that caravan, the ESU ambulance, was being escorted, I guess, to take him home or to a rehab out east.
Home, yeah.
So I knew. I said, "Oh, that's the detective from ESU going home." So I actually gave him a little highball. Not that he ever saw it or anything. I gave him a little highball as I passed by. Out of respect, because I figured it's got to be him, because you saw there's a couple of highway cars, and then the ESU ambulance, and then an SUV and another highway car behind it.
Yeah, no, I saw Steph from truck 10 there, because I think Gail was actually from truck 10. So
Stephanopoulos.
Yeah, Stephanakis, yeah.
Stephanakis.
Yeah. But so they make entry. I'm under the impression that there was 4 shooters, which I can understand, right?
Yeah, that was going to be my question, Rob, because you're on the stack, you're going upstairs, right? Because he's at the top of the stairs. Like I just did that again, playing with ChatGPT, him with the 2 guns at the top of the stairs, and the commissioner said they don't know 1 or 2 guns were used, but he's shooting from the top of the stairs. You got him with the bunker in the front of the stack. He's got his pistol, around the side, and the stack is behind them, using the bunker as much as possible for protection. So you were just going to get to it, because that was going to be my question, is from the vantage point of everyone trying to stay behind that only real point of cover of the ballistic shield, and that's why he gets shot in the leg, and that's why it was important to bring up a similar one. How do you think that 4 in a stack, it would come to be that 4 MOS would let rounds go?
So I'm not, like I said, I don't have any inside information. So this is all just speculation on my part, how I would have seen it. But and like Mike M says there, that's definitely the first bunker is the roughest, right? So I'm going to assume that that Matt Gale fired, right? So that's one of your first shooters, because he's going to see the perpetrator. He's going to have the shield up. He's going to have his hand outside the shield. Bang, shoots. Now the return of fire, right? So the MP5 operator, if that officer goes down, if Dale goes down, obviously because he got shot in his leg, or he's going to go down, I can see the MP5 operator right behind him. You know, you're going to start doing what we would call suppression fire, or, you know, return fire. So that's your second shooter, right? The MP5 operator. Then what would happen is normally is the bunker that's next to him, this number 2 bunker, would come and try to get in front, because now you have an officer down and you're going to try to extract that officer. So, and on the back of the vest, there's a strap that you can actually pull that officer back. So I'm going to assume that the second bunker team also shot. So this first bunker team shoots. The MP5 operator returns when the man goes down, when Matthew goes down, and then the second bunker comes around, should take the front point, right? Because you want to provide the team now with cover as they're coming around. I guarantee you that, you know, the second bunker team is shooting, and then the MP5 operator, the second MP5 operator, is coming around and shooting as well. So that would explain the 4. Now I don't know if that's what I would assume did happen.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So, and then, you know, thank God that the bunker is a very good tool, you know, and I think there's talk about, there is a larger bunker, which is, it goes from the normal size bunker all the way to the floor, and it's a handheld, very cumbersome though. It's not necessarily used all the time. It's usually, the times that I've seen it used is when you have a barricade perpetrator, and that individual is going to, you know, stand at the door or whatever, and you can put it up against the door. This way, you know, any shots fired through the door or whatever are not going to hit anything, no ricochets and stuff like that. So that's where that comes in. And then I think you have a picture of there's a rolling ballistic shield, which is extremely, extremely heavy. It comes apart. It wouldn't have worked there because you had stairs.
Right.
You couldn't get, you wouldn't be able to get up the stairs. And believe me, I've carried, you know, pieces of that. That thing is extremely heavy. And that's usually also when there's a long-standing barricade, you know, you're going to have to set up for a long time, because don't forget, even an individual in front of a door with a small bunker, you get tired holding that for a long time, you know, because some of these barricades last for a very long time. So you don't want to have to hold that. So
somebody brought up
something
before,
like that would help.
Somebody brought up before doing many search warrants on in narcotics. I myself was in narcotics and carried that. You know, sometimes you're the bunker, and you're going through the door, and you can't get fatigued, and that's when you're hoping that you know, whoever's on the gets through that door quick.
Exactly.
The longer you're standing there, it does get you fatigued. And Mike Marino gives you your spot on. You know, some may call that extrajudicial punishment, but it seems reasonable to me. Nice explanation, Rob. Spot on for you. And 100%. I mean, I kind of had, you know, that, but I wanted to hear it from you as the subject matter expert. You know?
Yeah, and then just to address one of the questions Mike had earlier. So I know he's home. I haven't heard anything about a GoFundMe for his family and stuff. You know, they're taking care of him. I do want to give a shout out to Jerry Dowling. Jerry Dowling's now the CO of ESU, which I didn't know. I saw him, and you see him in the press conference. He stands behind
Tisch.
Yeah. So he had been the XO in SRG under John Diadamo. And then when I left SOD, he took over as the XO Special Operations Division under Chief Aramblus. And then I guess once Carlos Valdez left, and I believe also Steve Finnegan, the XO, Jerry Dowling took over. And truthfully, I couldn't pick a better man for that position. Jerry Dowling has a lot of knowledge. He's a very competent individual. And here's the thing. He has a lot of knowledge of SRG. So SRG, and I've said it numerous times, SRG is a force multiplier on these types of jobs, okay? It's not just SRG or the riot police. There's other things that they do, counterterrorism. they assist ESU. So Jerry knows the whole gambit, and I guarantee you that every member in ESU is going to be happy with Jerry Daly, and I wish him all the best of luck. And I'm happy for ESU that they were able to get a very competent, smart individual to lead ESU. So they did. That was a good pick. Yeah.
I know Jerry as well, and I couldn't agree with you more. He's a gentleman, and very knowledgeable individual, and a great fit. You know, we talk about it all the time. You know, that part of the problem with this job in the past couple of administrations is you're not putting the right people in the right seats on the bus. This is the right ass in the right seat. So congratulations to Jerry. I hope he gets that second star. Normally I'd wait till the end for Ask the Executive, but Mike Freed's asking a question: would a chief ever be first to take the door with a bunker?
So a chief never should be. There were times where we had to hold Espo back because if it was a cop shooting, he wanted to be the first one in the door, and there were times where we couldn't hold him back. I remember a couple times there was a barricaded perp that shot a cop. Espo was right up there with us, but there should never be a chief. Truthfully, a captain should never be the lead bunker. Okay. All right. The detectives in emergency service unit, police officers in emergency service are fully trained. And as a boss, that's why the sergeant's in the fifth position, because the sergeant, once the one bunker goes to the left and one bunker goes to the right, the sergeant has choice. Which am I going to go? Am I going to go left or right? Which team do I want to go with? Or I could just stand here and see what's going to play out. But a captain or above, no, you're in the back. You should absolutely unequivocally. You have to trust your men. You have to trust your men and women that are doing their job. They trust the training and the experience that they could, and let them do their job. And believe me, as Mike Marino had mentioned earlier, you as a supervisor will not be disappointed with the emergency service unit and the talent that's in that unit. So, but yeah, and I think.
No doubt about it.
I think Dolan mentioned something about a Y bar, but a Y bar we only use a Y bar for like an EDP. We don't use it for like a barricaded perp like that. So, but yeah, no, and getting Jerry Daly, that's a score for them. So, there's definitely be a good advocate for the emergency service unit for equipment, personnel, and promotions and everything else. So.
Yeah, without a doubt, talented individual, and again, it's the right ass in the right seat. Listen, it's important anywhere, but in a unit like emergency services, if you don't have the right leadership, you could fuck things up. To be very blunt, that is not a place that you just hook up your buddy and give him a spot that he can get promoted or she can get promoted in. It's absolutely not the spot. You need somebody that has that drive, that initiative, that expertise, that understanding, and the ability to, like you just said, like Mike said, the ability to allow the men and women to do their job and trust them in their training.
Yeah, I mean that's it in a nutshell. I think that's every supervisor, even I used to hate when I was an anti-crime and my sergeant would jump out and start tossing people. I go, Sergeant, that's what we're here for. We'll search people and stuff. It's like you want to be a boss. If you don't want to be you want to be able to jump out and do police work, then don't take the test. Okay, stay a police officer. If you want to be a supervisor, you have to step back and you have to protect your men. You have to and women, and you have to make sure that they they do the job appropriately. So it's hard, So what's that? I thought you were laughing at that.
You give that spot to aviation as a parent from the last CO. Well, there are spots that people get that we question. You know, they're those head scratches like, what is that person doing there? You know, that person just doesn't fit. And then Mikey G, yeah. My question is to the executives, did they notice who was not at the press conference? And I had actually, if you remember, once the press conference came out, that's the first thing I kind of put into our text group, that it was this incident happened. It was the same day as the DEA annual picnic. And at the podium of any police involved shooting where a police officer is shot or God forbid killed, you always see the union president, or at least the vice president or high ranking, you know, official from the union standing with the police commissioner and have the ability to speak. And it's usually the same rhetoric that comes out about needing tougher laws and, you know, politicians need to change and the community needs to change their attitude towards the police. And in the most recent years about, you know, changing the laws back and you know, to raise the age and the bail reform laws that have caused so much harm. But yeah, Scott Monroe was not present. Scott Monroe was out east at the DEA picnic. Scott Monroe was aware of it. From my understanding, from talking to someone in the union, is that Scott Monroe did dispatch the Queens trustee as well as the vice president. But what was told to me is that they would never get in front of the camera with Tisch there. That is only for Monroe to do, which makes no sense to me. If you're going to be there, you need to be there. You need to represent. You need to show the membership that you're there to support them. And I don't care that you're at the picnic. It was, you know, 7 o'clock in the morning when this happened, right? 6:55, I believe it was, when this happened. There's incidents, there's situations where you may not want to get in front of the camera because maybe you've been indulging yourself in some adult beverages. That early in the morning, get in your car. You got a car with lights and sirens. Get to that press conference, get to that hospital, get to your detective, get to your detective's family. Let them know that you're there to support them. He felt it was more important, from what I'm told, that he wanted to address the delegate body at the pre-picnic meeting. I don't think that anybody would have blamed him or complained had he left.
No way.
And
You got a member shot, right? And you got a member shot. So what's more important? Is tell him some bullshit about what's going to happen at this the picnic, or are you going to go see a police officer and more importantly their family, right? I'm sure that Matt Gale was fine. You know, I'm sure he was in pain and he was and not feeling well, but he was, you know, he didn't need Scott Monroe to be there, but you know what? The family did, right? The family appreciates that. I can't tell you how many times I've been at the hospital when the family shows up and the panic and the disdain on their face, you know, until they're comforted and they're told what's going on. So, you know, because think about it, when there's an MOS shot, right? We usually send, whether it's in the city, we'll send a highway car to pick up the family. Sometimes out of the city, we'll send aviation to pick them up and fly them in. But think about the fact that they're completely unknown what's going on, and they're flying in. And then when they get there, they have no idea what's going on. They're escorted in. You know, a delegate at that point, the president of the union is an important position to calm people down, to let them understand. Yeah, the PC's there, everybody's there, that's fine. But you know what? You know, you kind of trust the delegate, you kind of trust the president of the union to, all right, you know, give me the real story, give me the real deal or whatever, not the political answer. So I think he should have been there 100%. It's one of his members, and it's not fair that he's he thinks that addressing his people is more important. Because you know what? Go there, do the press conference, and then come back. Is it delay your little speech for a little while? I don't know.
That's it. I agree with you 100%. And you know, Mikey G's following up. Did you notice that he went there and pretended like he was talking to the press? Yes. And John and Marlon did a piece on that and showed the video and had the background, and he was standing at the microphone, and they showed the up and down, you know, instead of the landscape. And from what I heard also, again, from DA, you know, inside the DEA, was that he went because he was catching a lot of flack from the delegate body, like, you know, you got to get out there, you know, so.
Terrible.
Wasn't going to address that, but it came up several times. You know, it is what it is. UMS involved in a shooting today, political climate, and the president's not there. He always was a joke. He should go back to auto crime and play with his matchbox cars. So, you know, he'll never be going back. You know, once you're a union president, you're not going back to patrol. You know, but yeah. So again, listen. The most important thing is that, you know, Detective Gale, you know, survived. Not a life-threatening injury. He was able to be released from the hospital within a couple of days, and he's on his road to recovery. So prayers to him, support to the family.
Great job, by the way. Yep.
Great job. Again, the men and women on that stack did a phenomenal job. They went in when they had to go in. Somebody else brought that up. I don't know if it was Mike Marino, that it showed their I don't remember who said it. It showed their professionalism, that, you know, they made their entry and they fired once they were fired upon. So, and again, for those who don't know the exact chronology of it, ESU went in because, like I said earlier to Rob, there was a threat because there were people, elderly people were still in the house on the floor above. And so there was a threat to life. Had there not been those people there, ESU waits them out. Hostage negotiation talks. They do what they have to do. There's no time on the clock that can't go by. And we've seen that time and again where they will wait them out. The reason that they made a dynamic entry is because he began to fire his weapon again after a lull, and those people were upstairs. So a call was made. I agree that it was the right call to go in. Once they went in, they were confronted with the threat. They did what they were trained to do, and they eliminated that threat. God bless them. God bless every person on that stack. God bless Detective Gale, and God bless the person that made that call as well.
Listen, I spoke about the one in the Bronx. That individual was barricaded for over 24 hours because he was alone. I actually was relieved. I went home. I came back in, and the barricade job was still going on. So, I mean, if you're alone, they're going to wait you out. But if there's a threat to life, and there's a call for it, there will be a decision to come in and to terminate that threat, and that's what they did, and they did a great job. And I wish a speedy recovery for Detective Matt Gale. And like I said earlier, I think the leadership of ESU and the members there did an outstanding job. So.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's move on. We've discussed these First Amendment auditors in the past on past shows. We've gone over their videos. Sometimes they're confrontational. They're definitely annoying. What they try to do is the way we've explained it and the way I feel about it is, listen, everybody has a right to videotape. Everybody has a right, you have that. There's a law in New York State and New York City, right? The Right to Record Act, where people are allowed to videotape police interactions in public places. There's always been a question whether the police station house or other public government buildings are actually public spaces that are allowed to have these First Amendment auditors do their thing. Go in, videotape, get confronted. They're looking for a lawsuit. They're looking to get locked up so they can make a lawsuit. A lot of cops aren't trained properly on how to deal with this. And we talk about that all the time. It's come up in the chat in the past. Why don't we discuss what MOS should do when they're confronted with these people? And the best advice that we could do is just act professional, allow them to record as long as they're not interfering with them, right? We also have this new pending litigation of the 15-foot, almost like the Halo law, that wouldn't allow someone to come within 15 feet. And these auditors are fighting that law because they feel that they won't be able to record properly, and it violates the Right to Record Act, which is not true, because you take this phone and you can zoom in from 15 feet away, and it's, you could count the hairs on Mike's chin, and that's that. But so there's one very popular auditor, and his name is
Sean Paul Reyes.
Thank you very much, Sean Paul Reyes, the Long Island auditor, and he had a case that he sued after being arrested in the 6-1 precinct doing one of his audits in the lobby. He was arrested. He had a lawsuit, and then he, in 2023, had an injunction put on the NYPD that said that he was allowed to go in to lobbies of the police stations and record. The NYPD still kept the signs up saying that videotaping is prohibited. So there was a conflict because there was an injunction by the Second Circuit of the New York State Supreme Court saying that he was allowed to do that. So again, a training issue. But now his case has been heard, and he lost. So the case has been heard, and the State Court of Appeals has said that filming inside of station houses is now banned. That the New York City Police Department can prohibit people from video recording law enforcement activities inside police stations. They ruled on Tuesday. There's no private right to record inside station houses or their public lobbies, Judge Jenny Rivera said for the unanimous court. So it was a unanimous decision. It's the first decision to reckon with whether the state's right to record law and similar New York City law allows people such as the plaintiff, Sean Paul Reyes, a YouTuber, to record inside police stations despite an NYPD policy forbidding any video recording inside the facility. So we'll show a couple of videos of what he does. But before we do that, what are your thoughts on?
So, I mean, I've watched a lot of his videos, a lot of his interaction with police, some of which I think he does personally just to get a lawsuit again, try to get money out of somebody. Because if somebody reacts inappropriately, he'll say, "Oh, I'm going to sue you," or "We'll see you in court," or whatever the case may be. I understand he also does like presentations in different law enforcements, particularly in Georgia and a couple other places where he tries to teach, interaction because, I guess as police officers, we don't really like being recorded all the time. Especially in the past. I mean, now with body-worn cameras, it's totally different. But, I guess when somebody, over your head or too close to you and they're recording something, it's a threat, in my opinion, because you don't know what they're doing behind you. You don't know what, they're just using the fact that they want to record you as a ruse to get close to you to do something. So, I mean, that's why I like the halo law and things like that. So the fact that, you can, the normal thing, what they say is that anything I see in public, I can record. So if you're walking down the street and you have your camera out, you can record. If you or my, Ron or myself are walking past you, you can't say, don't record me because you're in public. And normally for what Sean says a lot of times is he'll go in a building and there's all cameras up, surveillance cameras. So everybody's being recorded anyway in public. So the fact that you go into a police precinct, I can understand where the thought is that it's a public place, right? Because normally you didn't stop anybody. Because I remember as a cop in the 4-1 precinct that we would have, some of the homeless would come in and sit on the bench for a while, right, to keep warm or whatever. So it was almost a place of refuge for some of them. So, but there are other things in there, right? There's other factors to consider when you go inside a police precinct. You think about crime victims. God forbid there's a female that's in there that's been a victim of a domestic violence or an assault or a rape. She doesn't want to be videotaped. She doesn't want to be recorded, right? There's other people that are in there that are complainants. You don't want them. There could be confidential informants. There could be undercover police officers. So there's a lot of factors that are happening inside. Now, normally what an auditor would say was, well, it's the responsibility of the police department to secure those people, to secure the complainants, secure the victims, the undercover officers, and everything else. So it's a pretty fine line. But I think this is a good ruling because I think that because of safety issues, because of security issues for the individuals that are in there, somebody should not just be walking in there to film things. Okay, it's not a public place where you can just go in. So I think that this court ruling is good, even though it's a court ruling of and he'll often say this is a court ruling of policy as opposed to the law. Right, so they're saying that the policy of the NYPD to not allow somebody in can be then used as you can't come in here as a trespass. So it's a policy of the NYPD not to let anybody come in. So I agree with it. I don't know if he'll have the funds to go higher, to appeal it, but I agree with it because I think it protects people that are inside. That should be protected. To me, going into a station house is almost like going into your own house. All right, there should be some sort of sense of privacy in that building. So that's what I think.
So researching this a little bit, and to be honest, we spoke about it. I'm actually going to reach out to him and see if he'll come on the show. I don't know that he will, but. Because listen, I know Mike is here saying it. I'm not opposed to people videotaping. I'm not opposed to cops being held accountable for their actions. We call out cops when they get hooked and they're not properly trained and they don't respond well. And cops, first thing we're taught is you're supposed to have a thicker skin. I don't agree that people need to get into your face. I'm very much a proponent of the halo law or whatever the New York State is going to call it, giving you that minimum of 15 feet where they can't interfere with your business. It doesn't stop you from recording. I have no problem with the right to record laws. Well, I watched on his channel, he actually has, and it's in, I put it in the link. Listen, this is a First Amendment platform. I don't agree. I don't like what he does. I don't like how he gets confrontational and he talks down to the cops like he's better than them. Some of them do need education, don't get me wrong. But it doesn't mean that, he doesn't have a right to do what he's doing. I put in the link in the YouTube, if you go into the YouTube the show description and you open it up where it says, see more, and you read down on our show description, I put the link in there to the article from Bloomberg Law. I also put a link to his show where it says Legal Showdown in New York's Highest Court. Will we win? Where he actually posted the oral arguments of not just his lawyer, but both sides. He was fair in that the New York City lawyers, as well as his lawyers representing him and his side of the case, made their oral arguments in front of the court. So you got to see what the arguments were. You got to see what the questions from the justices on the court were asking. And the main focus, because don't forget, the Court of Appeals is not retrying the case. They're answering a very specific question that was posed to them. And that's what they decide on whether they're going to take the cases or not, right? They are discussing the specifics in response to a certified question. That's what it says. So they respond to the certified question. So when you bring a case, and the Second Circuit requested that the Court of Appeals take on this certified question of whether the inside of a police precinct was a public area that was intended to be included in the Right to Record Act. And the main focus on the back and forth questions to both sides of the case was where in the legal writings and the historical writings of the case law, of the law being written, did it specify what locations they consider to be public, and is it ambiguous? And they both had to, concede that it was ambiguous. And then they had to express in their argument where was the genesis of this law. When New York State and New York City came forth with these laws, what were they trying to achieve by them, and what was the genesis? And the genesis was high-profile interactions where police abused their authority or used excessive force, and it was recorded by the public, that brought transparency to the public of police misconduct. And the crux of it all was that every case, with the exception of one, was out in public streets. Was out in public streets. So when the court looked at it, the court looked at where was the goal of the law aimed. And they came in a unanimous decision that the goal was that it was out in the streets. So that's why he lost, because they came up with, and they shut down arguments when they tried to explain even why the inside should be a protected area. And they're like, listen, we're not talking about why the inside should be a protected area. You have to tell me why this law was brought about and what was the purpose of the law that we're going to interpret to clarify. And it's interesting. It's a 45-minute video. If you have time, please go into our show description, click on the link. It brings you to his YouTube channel and to his video, and watch it. And it was actually an interesting. It wasn't like a boring 45-minute video, like if you're watching our show. No, kidding.
Oh shit.
But I also, like I said, I have the link to the actual court's opinion in there, which is how many pages? Just to let you know how many pages. It's 14 pages, but it's not like 14 long pages where it explains it. So it's very interesting. And so now the reason I think it's important that we bring this up, and when we discussed what show topics, you sent me this, and I thought it was great. Again, it's to inform the members of the service on how they can navigate landmines. And these auditors, and I'm not saying that Reyes is a complete antagonist. I think he can be antagonistic, but I don't think he's a complete antagonist, because when he is treated with respect, he gives respect. And when he comes across officers that understand that you're allowed to videotape, just don't interfere, and blah, 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 blah. I think he's wrong sometimes. I'm going to show one video of him at the 121 precinct where he's pulling on door handles. And we've discussed that in the past. Oh, am I frozen?
Yeah, I still hear you though.
Lost my camera. My camera went.
Yeah, your camera then.
Let me unplug my camera, plug it back in.
Yeah, so I mean, I know a lot of people in the chat are saying, he's and some of it looks like he isn't just for the money, because he does a lot of lawsuits, and every time somebody says something, he threatens them. So, but the fact is, he also does, if he's treated with respect, then he'll usually give it back. So I don't know whether or not this case will be appealed or whatever, but I think it makes a lot of sense that a station house should be able to be secured for the facts that I mentioned earlier. So are we going to show the video now, Ron, or?
Yeah, I'll show a video, and again, I'm going to show two different videos. And one is prior to his injunction, which is the 121 video that happened in March of 2023, because the injunction came in November of 2023, where the second circuit put an injunction against the NYPD that said that he was allowed to videotape inside the public areas of the precinct and of other public buildings. So there's a difference.
I just want to jump in real quick, because Phil, the heater guy, he says, Ron, you should look at the videos of him at Connecticut State Trooper Brian Fahey, and the fact that he came to Fahey's house and scared I just lost the rest of it, but he did actually go to Brian Fahey's house. I don't know if you saw that video, and he literally walks up to the door and rings the doorbell of the state trooper's personal house. So I think at some point there can be a crossing of the line, and that in myself, he shouldn't have done that. He has like a truck he puts out that shows like an ad truck, and starts putting up stuff in front of somebody's house. All well and good, whatever. But when you start walking on somebody's property and going up and knocking on the door, and then it got a little crazy too, because then the sergeant came out with his firearm in his hand, and he allegedly spit in Sean Paul Ray's his face and his mouth. So there was a whole lawsuit going on. So I completely understand what Phil, the heater guy, was saying. There is a line where you shouldn't cross, in my opinion. And it was similar to, if you remember, there was the officer that had racked up, how many speed camera tickets, and that person went up and knocked on the home door of that somebody. There's definitely a part where you don't want to cross the line, but That was not fit. That was not right. So if you want to show the two videos, right? If you want to preface it or whatever, I think they're two great things to be shown.
So the first one, like I said, is in the 121 precinct. Let me take this down. In the 121 precinct, and it's prior to his injunction. So it's where the NYPD has a policy. Now, there's a New York State right to record law that says you can record in public areas. And his contention was the lobby of an NYPD precinct is a public area. So according to the New York State and New York City Right to Record Act, you should be able to record in that public area. And the NYPD has a policy, a posted policy, that there's no recordings beyond this point, which is at the main door. And that was for privacy reasons for complainants as well as members of the service, possible undercovers, whatever the case may be. But in this situation is where I disagree with him. Because listen, that was a valid argument. Mike Marino said the same thing, that, the lobby of a public building, even though you do have a right to remove people from an NYPD precinct and trespass them if they refuse to leave, it is ambiguous, as the court said. So I don't disagree with his argument. It was played out in court like we say all the time, right? Just like when we talk about resisting arrest. Your recourse is in court later. You don't have certain, So his recourse was in court. He took it to court, and now he lost the case in the State of Appeals because they've clarified that portion of the law. Prior to that, with this video, it wasn't there. But to me, there's two parts of this video. And it's the part of him outside the precinct and what he's doing, and then him trying to get inside the precinct. And the second video we're going to watch in the 4-7 is after the injunction, and you'll see the difference.
Why are you trying to check the cars if they're open?
Can I help you with anything, sir?
I'm asking you. Can I help you?
I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are, sir.
I just saw you touching the back door of that car. Why are you messing with this armpit?
Sir, I would like to know who you are. I don't know.
Lieutenant Conway.
Lieutenant Conway?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't need any help, Lieutenant.
Okay, thank you. You can't touch the cars, all right? You can film.
Why can't I touch the car?
Because I don't know if you're trying to break in and steal something. Okay.
Why would I break into a vehicle?
I don't know. People do it all the time.
Well, that's not my intention here. I'm just checking to make sure everything's okay.
Awesome. I appreciate your help.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah. Have a great day, Lieutenant. You take care.
What's going on, man?
Nothing much. I was speaking to you, Lieutenant, out here.
Okay.
That's it.
Is this something unique? Can I help you with something?
No, I'm okay. I'm all right. Thank you. No, I was just speaking with the Lieutenant out here. That's all.
About what?
About the vehicles here. That's all.
What's wrong with the vehicles?
For
an issue?
Well, yeah. For example, that has a big windshield. The windshield on this cruiser right here has a big crack in it. So I was just checking that. It's it's for safety purposes. Hey, how you doing?
How's it going, sir? I'm Lieutenant Chiasano.
Hey, Lieutenant. How are you? I
Nice to meet you.
was just speaking to another lieutenant.
So, I don't mind you guys, like you said, you hang out here, you got to film, do what you want to do. The only thing I ask is just please don't yank on the door handles.
Oh, I was just making sure that they weren't open.
Just please, yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
If you
just
can do
checking.
that for me, I appreciate it.
No, but I like to check on all the. I like to check on all the taxpayer vehicles, make sure that they're being properly secured, safety purposes and everything. Because as you can see there, Lieutenant, that vehicle, it looks like it's in service right here, but it has a huge crack in the windshield. Could be unsafe for someone to drive. Probably should be taking care of that.
I'm Lieutenant Chiasano. I'm just advising you, please stop filming the door handles.
Yeah, I'm just checking to make sure they're open. That's all. They're not
Would you
open.
like a contact card?
A contact card?
My contact card.
Oh, no, I'm okay, Lieutenant. Thank you. I don't need that.
Nice
I got your
meeting you,
name.
right?
Yeah, you have a great day, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, what's going on, buddy? You can't record in here. There's a sign right there. It says members of the public are prohibited from audio recording. Please shut the audio recorder off.
Did I say it was on? I didn't say it was on.
Let me see. You're recording.
Do you have probable cause to search my property, sir?
What?
Do you have probable cause, a warrant, to search my property?
Warrant?
Yeah. Do you have
What does that sign say? You have your phone out. It's facing me.
But does that mean that I'm recording?
Yeah, let my boss handle you.
I'm not. Who says that I'm recording?
Okay.
I just want to make, like I said, I don't mind you filming out there, okay,
Yeah.
but it's prohibited to film.
But I never said I was filming outside to begin with.
Okay.
You made
Again,
that assumption.
But again, you're holding a phone up as you're mimicking a recording. I'm just letting you know if you are recording, you're in violation, you're trespassing, and I'm just advising you, you're not allowed to record inside a police precinct.
But no one said I was recording.
I'm just saying, just please, okay? You cannot record inside a police precinct, okay? You're holding up a phone, mimicking as if you're recording.
But there's nothing illegal about that, Lieutenant.
What do you think?
What precinct is that? That's very nice. That's the News 120?
The 121 precinct, yeah. on the North
121.
Shore.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. It's a little strange. It's got a large overhang in the front that they were
Yeah.
standing under in the front. But listen, I think that the cops handled themselves very well here. I mean, tactically, kids with hands in his pockets or whatever you can see. The first lieutenant, I think he's either the ICO or the squad lieutenant, and he's 100% right. You can't pull on door handles. We've locked people up and actually had to charge a stick back when district attorneys actually prosecuted people for unauthorized use of a vehicle. Because when you take your hand and you put your hand on a door handle and you attempt to open the door, you're putting yourself in possession and use of that vehicle. He has no right to try and open up a police car's door. None whatsoever. So I totally disagree with him there. And I think that he could have actually been locked up. I don't know that they would prosecute, in 2023. But when you were a cop, when I was a cop, that was unauthorized use of a vehicle. And we used to use that as a tool for people that would go. It's the same thing about when people would go in and they'd rummage through your car and steal things. Once they got into the vehicle or they were pulling on the door handles, you got them for unauthorized use of a vehicle because they're in possession of the vehicle, right? Instead of just the pettit larceny or the attempted pettit larceny or whatever the case may be, because they're rummaging through everything. So there, I have a problem with what he's doing. Videotaping the cars, coming up with his BS that the windshield is cracked and blah, 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 that's fine. You want to videotape the cars coming and going. I don't agree with it. I think it's problematic because, again, he's recording the license plates of a lot of times members of the service coming and going from work. But that's just an issue that we deal with, right? They have the right to do these recordings. And then the second half, I think that lieutenant did a phenomenal job, that desk officer. I think he did a phenomenal job. I don't know if he was a desk officer, if he was the admin lieutenant, whatever the case may be. But that second lieutenant in uniform that came out, I think he did a good job. He de-escalated it, especially when that one cop was starting to get hooked inside the lobby. He gave him the boot. We talk about that all the time, right? We talked about that with the inspector in that other video that John and Marlon were discussing, how that inspector stepped in to try to de-escalate with another auditor, but he never told the sergeant to leave. Right? He never. What did I say in the comment? You got to know when to tap somebody out. That lieutenant did a good job. He tapped that guy out, and I think he handled it well. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think Mayor Jack Greco, 61. It's hard to say that. Brings up a great point. I think they were putting needles and they were putting stuff underneath door handles. So, at anything, at least I have reasonable suspicion to stop and question him what he's doing, right? Because you shouldn't be opening people's door handles, or he could be opening them to try to steal the car. He could be opening them to steal the contents inside. 100%, that guy was completely wrong for doing that. That's not what you do. You want to walk around, you want to record, so be it. That's what you're allowed to do that. The cars are on the street, they're in a public area, you can do that. Guys coming and going from the station house, you can record them. It's the same thing as the license plate readers. It's the same thing as all the other video cameras that are out in the city. You can do that. But excuse me, I agree that the first lieutenant confronted him. I might have taken a little further if I saw him actually opening the doors, a little bit. I've tried to at least identify him and stuff. And maybe that's what he wanted. I don't know. But the second lieutenant inside the station house, and the officers, they did a phenomenal job. They stopped him and everything else. And you could see where he pushes to the point where he tries to get a reaction. So I mean, and what you don't want to do now is give him that reaction. So I think that may be one of the things tonight is that he's allowed to record where he's allowed. You could allow him to record, and you could just say hi or whatever if he's recording you. Just the same thing as that. The example that you gave, where you told to tap out. Yeah, it's similar to what you do on a demo, right? When somebody's getting in your face and you see the cops getting pissed off and angry, hey, so somebody else take his spot, right? You don't have to stand there and take that shit, all right? And the fact that sergeant pushed up on that, I mean, to me it was a little childish at a point. It was almost like who's tougher than two. I even said in the chat that day, the cop should have tapped that sergeant out. Sarge, we got this. I got this. Go over there, Sarge. I got it. And that somebody should have done it, because obviously the sergeant was having a problem with it. So get that guy out of there. It wasn't necessary. So, but yeah, I think the lieutenant in that beautiful precinct did a great job. Bro, I worked in the 4-1 precinct, the 4-1, right? And then it was supposedly Fort Apache. People called it Little House on the Prairie because everything had burned down around it. It was just tumbleweed. But you're getting changed on the third floor, no air conditioning, sweating your balls off, shots being fired down the block. You knew it was going to be a busy night. All right. It was dirty. Mel was the cleaner, great guy, but every day he would go to the bodega and drink about, I don't know how many pounds of beer. So nothing got cleaned. If you took a crap upstairs, you'd have to make sure that the spray bottles were upstairs on the toilet bowl, so you could clean the bathroom before you took a crap there. So yeah, up on QC Beast, up on Simpson Street, the old 4-1, and it was bad. You didn't even go down in the basement. The basement was so bad. So, and when I look at that, damn, bro, that thing's beautiful. That is, I mean, yeah, architecturally, like Michael M says, the 120 looks like a giant stapler. I think a couple other people said that, but architecturally, maybe it stinks. But man, when you look inside, that thing is beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's brand new. But Phil the Heater guy is telling me.
The one I always tell the story, and I think I said it before. Billy Redden, great cop, learned a lot from him. He's upstairs on his meal, he's closing his eyes. A rat lays up next to him. My God, that's the place I was in, man.
Spooning with a rat. Hey, listen, I started out in the 7-0, same thing. Third floor was a locker room, no air conditioners. You were drenched from head to toe before you went on patrol, going down into the basement to do an actual, legitimate roll call. And the same thing, dirty couches with mice running across the top. When you never took, unless you were doing a wraparound or something, you never slept there or anything like that. But Phil the Heater guy is saying I need to do my research on the concept of limited public forum. Phil, I'm going to tell you the same thing I just said before. Go to the link in the show description. I don't care about giving him views. That doesn't matter to me. The guy's got over 1 million followers and he gets tens of thousands of views. I think it's good. It was good content. So I'm gonna say hit the link, watch it. It's 45 minutes. Actually interesting 45 minutes of oral arguments in front of the Court of Appeals. You hear both sides. You hear the New York City side. You hear the civil libertarian side, and you hear the actual questions from the justices, and they explain this. They explain this, and again, they're really honed in on that qualified question of what was the intent of the initial law? Why was it brought forward? Because it brought forward that why did they want to bring that forward, and it was because of George Floyd and then the 2020 riots, and that was the main reason. So that was the main focus. So I'm going to play the second video now of the 4-7. Now remember, this is after the injunction where the NYPD from the Second Circuit Court of Appeals put an injunction that allowed him to record while the case was ongoing. And then somebody just sent me something that I think McCarthy retired. Let me check it out.
Right, I know, and I'm allowed to record inside.
Correct, but you cannot impede and block the door.
No one,
when
no
I
one's
came
doing
over,
that.
you were blocking the door.
Oh, stop it,
So
man!
as
Get
long
out
as
of my
you-
way!
Sir,
Get out of my
as long
way!
as-
The federal
What
Second
business do you
Circuit
have?
Court of Appeals, sir, says that I have a right to record inside of that lobby.
Gotcha.
I'm enforcing that, and if you do that, if you're doing this, you're violating a federal court order. Reyes, call legal; they'll explain it to you. There's signs in some precincts that says only Sean Paul Reyes can record in this precinct. So I'm just trying to enforce the law here.
You're going to remain outside. If you come back in, you will
Give me my ID.
you'll be in trouble.
Give me my
okay?
ID. No, I'm not gonna. You're gonna arrest me, and you're gonna listen.
You're gonna stay outside.
What's gonna happen is you're gonna arrest me, and you're gonna be in violation of a court order, and you're gonna be held in sanction.
Okay, no problem.
Mr. Rico, you're gonna be
No
sanctioned.
problem. Do not come back inside unless you have police business, okay?
Well, I have every business. There's a Second Circuit Court of Appeals. I want to speak to a
I'll
supervisor.
call legal for you. You stay outside.
Call legal.
Stand
Call
outside. Do
call
not come
legal.
back inside.
You're gonna be making a big.
Stand
You're gonna be in
on-
violation of a court
no
order.
problem. I'm going to call legal.
You're gonna
and then I
be-
will come and apologize to you.
Okay,
I'm
call
incorrect.
legal. Go ahead.
Okay. Do not
I
record
will-
inside. Do not come back inside unless you have business to come.
Okay, but if you don't come back in, if you don't come back out here, I'm coming back in. You got your call from legal?
I think we're both right. So
I know. I think I'm right.
no. So you're allowed to come inside.
Right. I know, and I'm allowed to record inside.
Correct, but you cannot impede and block the door.
No one-
when
no
I
one's
came
doing
over, you
that.
were blocking the door.
Oh, stop it,
So
man.
as
Get
long
out
as
of my
you-
way.
Sir,
Get out of my
as long
way.
as you are not blocking-
Stop it. I'm not blocking the
I'm
door.
just trying to explain to you.
I'm
You're-
not blocking anybody from doing
Okay, you
anything.
listen for a minute
No,
before
I don't
you
want to
get
listen to you guys
You
no
come
more.
in-
Get out of my way.
Sir, when you come in,
Get out of my way,
do not-
please.
sir,
Get out of
I'm
my
trying to
way.
explain-
No. You put your hands on me unlawfully. You are so ignorant. You don't know that there's a federal injunction in place, and you were just educated. Now get out of my way. I know how to
I'm just
conduct
letting you know.
myself in public.
I'm just trying to
Excuse
tell you-
me.
you gotta
Excuse
listen
me.
first.
Here, look,
I'm not
I'll show you.
listening
We
to
can look
anybody.
together. We can look
I'm not
together.
listening to anybody.
Good. What do you got on that one?
No, I thought the sergeant did a good job. If he didn't know the answer or whatever, and he called the legal bureau. So I think that's what you need to do. So I don't have a problem with that. And then you were guided by legal. So there's been times on demonstrations where we've had legal representatives. Was it Lou Albano, who used to be right next to us all the time. So it's not a bad thing to call up and get legal's opinion, and he did that. So, and I think Sean Paul Reyes was a little rude, a little nasty, in the way he spoke to the sergeant and called him guy or whatever, and was like telling him what he was going to do. I think he could have handled it a little better there. The sergeant wasn't being nasty. The sergeant was trying to talk to him, and then he said, "I'll find out." So. And then once the decision was made by legal, he came back out and he admitted it. So I don't know. I just think that I thought the sergeant did a pretty good job there too. But I wouldn't have been informed. You and I would have not been informed about what some legal precedent was set unless there was a legal bulletin or a notice from our legal bureau. So.
This Mike Marino, you can't touch the cause. What if he was placing explosive? He's an arrogant asshole. I got somebody texting me here saying that he's an asshole too. But listen, but where I'm gonna just push back a little bit is that, yeah, I think the sergeant tried to do a good job. I think he tried to be professional and keep it calm, but like we tell people, ignorance is no excuse. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? If there's a law on the books, you have to abide by that law, and we could enforce that law whether you were aware of it or not if you broke the law, right? You agree with me there?
I agree with your law, right? Not a ruling, right, but a law. Yeah.
Well, when there's an injunction placed upon the police department, it's incumbent upon the police department.
Police department.
Right. it's incumbent upon the police department. Oh, I'm putting the onus on the upper echelon, the legal.
Oh, absolutely. No, I thought you were putting the onus on the sergeant, but
No. I'm putting the onus on the police department. There was an injunction in November of 2023 in regards to his ongoing lawsuit, where he asked for an injunction. He was granted an injunction that allowed him to record inside of NYPD lobbies while this lawsuit was going on, prior to the Second Circuit sending it up to the Court of Appeals. So the problem is the NYPD, right?
Yeah.
Is responsible to disseminate that injunction information out to the members in the field. And this is where the NYPD, the upper echelon of the NYPD, right? The Legal Bureau, the OMAP, whoever you want to say is going to be responsible for this. Once there's an injunction, it's their responsibility to disseminate that information, not through a bullshit finest message. They have to ensure that this thing goes out through training sergeants, that this thing goes out through commanding officers. This is a big deal because what you're doing is you're not protecting the members. And this is what we talk about with training all the time. The training is to protect the members also. Because if they're not properly trained, they could put themselves in harm's way, both tactically, but also administratively, such as this. This is opening up these members to civil lawsuits. It's opening up these members to substantiated CCRBs for abuse of authority by not allowing him to come into the station. Now, again, prior to Tuesday's decision, while there's an injunction, because the courts are going to hold that the job is responsible. And you as an agent of the job are responsible to know. Now, again, how is that sergeant going to know? Unless he follows Long Island audit. He's not going to know. So the job failed. The job being, again, the upper echelon failed the membership by not properly informing them. Listen, if they made a patrol guy procedure change, you damn sure know that they make sure that everybody knows about it, right? When it benefits the job. But because they didn't like this ruling by the Second Circuit, they didn't do what they needed to do to make sure that the job knows that anybody that Sean Paul Reyes shows up, he's allowed to record. And he even says in that video, in the extended version, some precincts have signs up that say Sean Paul Reyes is allowed to record.
Right.
You know? So that's where I feel the failure is. Again, the failure is on the leadership, not that sergeant. The sergeant technically failed because he's not following the injunction and would be held liable. You think the CCRB is going to give a shit that the job didn't tell him?
No.
Exactly. So the job is failing the cops once again.
Well, you were going to push back. I agree with that. There's no pushback here. Yeah,
right.
I agree with that. Yeah, that's it. I just one thing in the chat. Mayor Jack Greco, 61. I know, but it was hilarious. It said you have to read this at 10 consecutive roll calls, right? You remember that message? And yeah, it's a great point though. When you think about that, one of the squads is only getting the message twice. So I don't understand. I don't understand why there was 10. And I never thought about that, but that's a great point. That's hilarious. So, and you know, ENYC 26. He says, what would happen if this guy tries to open a door in the ESU truck? Yeah, I don't think he's going to have much of a hand left then after that. But yeah, that consecutive.
Those bunkers hurt.
Yeah, yeah. Can't tell you how many times you go down to CCRB and when they make entry and you say, police get down, police get down, police get down. and they don't get down, the bunker puts them down. So
Bunker puts them down. 100%. I've done it myself in narcotics, like I said.
yeah. You can always tell when you've hit a location a couple times, because when they say police get down, they all get down. Oh yeah.
All right. Anything more on this? Like I said, I'm going to reach out to him. I don't know that he'll even respond. And
I would
try
be
and get him
interested in
on the
talking to
show.
him.
Because, like I said, somebody said bring him on and clown him. Absolutely not. We'd be absolutely respectful to him. I will question his motives. I would question his, is the way he goes about certain things, and try to school him like he tries to school cops, on things like pulling door handles is actually illegal. But get his opinion on what he thinks about the ruling and where he goes from there moving forward. I mean, I don't think he's paying for the lawyers. I think these lawyers are, the civil libertarians are the ones that are taking on his case.
One lawyer quit on him, or there was a mutual agreement where they separated. So I don't know. What last time I saw him, it was against that Connecticut State Trooper Sergeant Fahey, and he was representing himself in a deposition. So I don't know if he has lawyers even that are even on with him anymore. But yeah, that'd be interesting. So I'd love to have him on.
All right. So Mike Freed had sent me this prior to that last video. Let me take it down. And it is from AM New York. The NYPD Assistant Chief, whose home was raided by the department's Internal Affairs Bureau and the FBI on Wednesday as part of an apparent corruption probe, has filed for retirement, AM News has learned. And that was posted 14 minutes ago. So probably about, a half an hour ago. They posted that he actually filed for retirement. And again, when you file for retirement, you can't do immediate retirement. You got to give the job 30 days notice. So the job now is 30 days to prosecute him if they're going to. But you know what? Department charges and terminating him, it's kind of irrelevant because of the drop law. It's the criminal case that he's gonna have to deal with.
I would say give him some crackers. He might be singing like a canary right now. Oh,
listen, somebody's already singing. Like people talk about it before.
Song goes on. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to catch up with the chat a little bit, and then we'll wrap it up. If you want, all right. Let me start bringing that stuff up. But anything else on any of this? I know we're gonna.
No, it'd be interesting to speak to him if he's willing to come on.
Mike, Sergeant did a good job. Yeah. So I mean, this is listen. We have 1,300 people watching right now. A lot of people watching on X. Again, I'm going to ask people watching on X. We appreciate the views. We appreciate you watching. 1,300 people. It's great. I hope that means that we're engaging in the audience with the conversation. We're engaging with the chat, getting you involved. We invite you over to New York's finest retired unfiltered YouTube channel so you can get really engaged and involved with the chat. But thank you very much. 1,300 1,300 people viewing tonight. So that's really great. And again, Phil's telling me I'm late to this game. I don't know what game I'm late to. I go and watch the circuit. I'm talking about the Court of Appeals decision. That's what I'm talking about, and that's what I watched. I watched the oral arguments, and I read the answer that they gave. So I'm not sure. You're telling me I'm late. You're telling me I need to look it up, but put something else in the chat as to what I'm wrong about. If I'm wrong about something, I'm wrong about something. I've been wrong many times in my life. I've been wrong on this show, and I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong. I'm just telling you what I watched. I'm telling you what I heard and what I read. So that's that. Erin's back. Erin, who? There's nobody left in the family, Erin. Where are you going next? I don't know. Erin Reagan,
Recycles and
he's
stuff.
been every person. He's been every person in the Blue Bloods family. Maybe he'll go to the in-laws next. Oh wait, there's Phil the Heater guy. If you give him respect, he will use you as a reference to future cops when he interacts with them. That's what he does when he talks about the police departments he has trained. No, that's actually not true, Phil. I when I was looking through his YouTube channel, he actually does do trainings in some police. Some police departments do bring him in. Whether he volunteers or he's getting paid, I don't know. I didn't watch the actual training videos, but there are actual police departments, like Rob referenced earlier, that he goes and trains them on, First Amendment auditors and how that they should be interacting with the First Amendment auditors. Why they would hire him, I'm not sure, because he is not a lawyer. He does put that as a disclaimer in his YouTube description of his channel that he is not a lawyer. So. And Matt Fasano is saying that the day he was modified, he filed for a tournament that morning, but they held the finest message. Depends on what time. The way it works, Matt, is that depends on what time you get to the pension section. If you get in there and you're finished with your paperwork before, I don't know what it is. I think it's 10 or 11 o'clock. You come down that day. Otherwise, you come down the next day. Did they hold it? I don't know. It's possible. All right. Let me bring up the Ask the Executive. We'll go to that. Do I not have it here? All right. What else you got? I got to bring this up.
No, I mean, maybe they held it. I don't know. Maybe they didn't want it to look like he was just jumping ship. But either way, he's got 30 days. We'll see what happens, right? Maybe he, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I don't want to say there's some thought of, guilt because he's ready to jump ship and now doesn't want to fight it because you never know. But, there's something going on. And I think in the future, coming days, we'll find out more. So.
Yeah, and again, a lot of everything completely of our conversation is going to be, when and if an indictment comes down.
Yep.
So, all right, let's move on to Ask an Executive. This is the portion of the show where Ron and Rob will answer questions from the chat, whether on or off topic. And it's because quite often you don't have access to upper executives in the NYPD. Here you have a retired NYPD deputy chief, retired NYPD inspector, willing to answer your questions on or off topic. And so let me go back. I did star one question from earlier from Nolan. Detective Nolan asked, when OCCB got disbanded, what happened to the subunits? Where did they go? They all fell under the Detective Bureau. And then Joe Mango had asked, Ron and Rob, question for Ask Executive. Any comments on the 10-4 Tavern ending their show next week? Yeah, we touched on that, and we'll bring it up again. And then this came from Matt Pisano for you, Rob. I've been out for 5 years. Does ESU stack have to all have body cameras on? Good question.
Yeah, they do. They do. There was a big issue at first with the ESU having the body-worn cameras. I remember fighting some stuff, because we didn't want them to have to activate their body-worn cameras at a TAC meeting where the tactics were discussed, pre-entry or whatever. But yeah, once they're on a job, they're on a stack, they are supposed to have it on. During then, if I remember correctly, I may have changed since I left because I've been out for 4 years now. But there was a point where the supervisor, when they're going to talk about some sort of tactics about entry, they can pause their body-worn camera and then reactivate it once they're ready to make entry or whatever, because we don't want all the tactics to get out. So yes, they do though.
All right.
I saw 2 questions at 1904. I don't know if you got them.
No, I didn't. I'm way past that. What are they? Do you know?
No, I got to get back up there.
1904.
Yeah, 1904.
A lot of comments today. Taking me a little bit to scroll back. Love the interaction, people. Thank you so much for interacting with us. 1904. All right. I'm at 1904.
That's actually the one was Matt, and then no, you got them both. Yeah, you got them both.
Oh, we got them?
Yeah, those are the 2 you highlighted.
All right. All right. We see anybody with any other questions? Now I got to try and scroll back down here. Delray. Delray 55, always got good questions, my friend. As a CO or XO of precinct, did you ever have a shoe fly captain inspect your command while you were on duty? Was there an unwritten rule regarding this? Oh, yes, there is 100% an unwritten rule. We have discussed this in the past. When you have the duty or you're the shoe fly is basically an additional captain that goes around, that people aren't supposed to know is working. Or it could be the ICO or the inspections captain, depending on what definition you're going to use. But when you have another captain working that's covering the area, you call into the borough, you find out who's working. If there's an executive working in the command, it's an unwritten rule that you don't go to that command. You can stop by, but you don't scratch the log. You don't come in and scratch the command log. You come in and you say hello to the executive. And then when I was working, I always told them when they came in, hey, go get the log, get credit for being here. That's fine, because there is a duty captain activity sheet that they have to fill out of what commands they went to. Did they check the prisoners? Did they do this? Did they do that? How many 311 calls there were? But there is definitely an unwritten rule. I learned that on my first duty ever going out with Crystal Johnson when she was in the 7-7. I did my first duty with her, and that's one of the things that I was taught. And I always taught the people the same thing. Some people get very, very insulted when you do stop by their command if you didn't know they were working, like you were supposed to know they're working. Like, listen, I called the borough. You were down for a day tour. You're here for, you're here at 1900 hours. I'm not supposed to know that you stayed or you came in late. If you didn't adjust your schedule with the borough and let them know you were working. So some people just get pissy about it, but there's absolutely a thing. And then there's other people that just don't give a shit, and they're going to come into your command and try to break balls. And that's when you got to come out and make an example of that person, especially if you outrank them. If you don't outrank them, you still have words with them.
Yeah. So when I was XO with the 2-3, and I was the duty captain, whatever. Same thing. You would check with the borough, right, to see who's working, get a list. You kind of knew because you give you a weekly sheet of what everybody was working, so you would check. And then if you went into a command and you would ask, is the boss, is the inspector in? Is the XO in? No, nobody's here. Okay. And in Manhattan North, the rule was you could sign the command log, but if there was another captain or a boss working, a deputy inspector or inspector, you would never sign the interrupted patrol log because they were in the house. And then what you do is you just sign the log, like you said, to get credit. And then you didn't break balls. You didn't say what's going on. What do you got, Sarge? How's everything, Lou? Blah blah blah. No, you went back to them and said, hey, how's everything? Everybody do, how you doing? Check in with them, and then you leave the command. But yeah, that's you showed respect, and there's some shoe flies that didn't. Yeah, they were dicks, and they were stupid idiots looking for a number or whatever. So. And they had to give numbers. They had to give so many CDs out, and that's what was sad about it. They went around breaking balls. I remember one Yankee game after a chief walked by and shook everybody's hand. The shoe fly came by, and you just shook the chief's hand. You didn't have your hat on. Gave him a fucking CD. So you don't be a dick. That's all. And there's some out there. Sorry, I went off a little bit.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Nolan, I don't know if it's a serious question. Will the helipad at 1PP ever be used again? I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know the structural integrity of the roof of that building to hold a helicopter right now, but I don't know.
And just going back to the last question, Vinny Salerno. Anybody in housing knows Vinny Salerno.
I wasn't even in housing. I know Vinny Salerno.
Yeah.
Everybody talking about him.
He got bounced out when Jaffe was gone. He finally got bounced out. But I've had personally in PSA 2 when I was an executive officer, and Kevin Harrington was the CO. We were both working, and he came in and he was breaking the desk officer's balls. And if anybody knows Kevin Harrington, right, the original big guy, I got called big guy throughout my career. I got the big guy from Kevin Harrington. Big guy, big guy, big guy. It just stuck being his XO that I started saying big guy, and then people started calling me big guy. So I'm not the original big guy. I give that credit to Kevin Harrington, and I always had an ongoing joke with Kevin. Also, when I was in PSA 2 when I first got promoted, then I went to the 7-3, and then Kaneen put me back when they disbanded SATCOM. I went back to PSA 2, and Kevin had a picture of himself behind my desk. And welcome back, big guy, blah, 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 blah. And he said to me, jokingly, but I did it. He goes, every office you ever go into, you hang that picture up. So every time I got transferred and I moved, I hung that picture up, took a picture, and sent it to him, even after he was retired. I was the borough commander in Housing Bronx, Queens. I had the picture of Kevin Harrington up in my office. But anyway, I digress. But Vinny Salerno and but anyway, Kevin Harrington, when he was getting ready for Comstat, he used to walk around his office and he'd have a baseball bat in his hand and he'd be whacking himself, going like this with the baseball bat in his hand, just practicing what he'd say at the podium, blah, 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 blah. One day, Vinny Salerno comes in, he's at the desk. Me and Kevin are in preparing for Comstat because I had the impact, so I had to go to Comstat. We go walking out, and he's got the baseball bat. Vinny Salerno ran like a forget about it, thinking that Kevin was coming after him. Meanwhile, he wasn't threatening him. He just had it in his hand, and the TS called and said, Salerno's here, breaking the lieutenant's chops. And we came out. So that's my Vinny. That's one of my Vinny Salerno stories. But anyway, Phil the Heater guy, as bosses, do you think it's okay for Tisch to always do press conferences instead of the bosses who are actually at the scene of an incident? What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I think there's a place for the bosses that were actually on the incident to get to say a few things. They're talking about their personnel. So if you look at that most recent press conference, right, where Matt got shot, could have the CEO of ESU gotten up there? Could the CEO of the Special Operations Division explain a few things? Yes. Do they like to do that? No. We've seen Tisch do things like that where she's, pulled people away from the podium or told them, I got this question or who's going to do it. So, but in all perfect honesty, it's up to Tisch. It's her game. She's the police commissioner and she can decide yes or no, whether she wants to bring somebody else up or not. So there could be discussions beforehand and nobody else is talking but me. Because I'm going to be the sole voice of the department on this one. And so be it. That is her job, and that's her authority to do that. So
Yeah, under Ray Kelly, no one did a press conference for Ray Kelly, or when he designated. And then when Bratton came in, Bratton 2, he started delegating it, and he said, "I want my executives out there," and that's where you still to this day hear that the information I'm about to give you is preliminary and subject to change. That was a mandatory line that we had to say at the beginning of a press conference, and I did quite a few high-profile instances where I had to get up in front of the camera, and that was like a thing. But DCPI actually shows up. They help script some things out. They control the questions sometimes too. But listen, it depends on the person. Some people are good public speakers. Some people are horrendous public speakers. It doesn't mean they're bad people. They're a bad person or a bad executive. It's just, it's tough. And then you get in front of that camera and it's a bad look for the department. So that's one of the things that I think that the department doesn't do enough of is, training for executives on public speaking. And I think it's something that they've tried to fix, but I don't think they've done enough.
I got over my fear. I got over my fear of public speaking when I had to do a Shields presentation. That whole freaking 1 PP auditorium was filled, man. Oh my God.
The most nervous I ever got, because even at CompStat, I never got nervous, was my PMI presentation to the police commissioner and the executive staff. That was nerve-wracking. And we knew it inside and out, but it was still just nerve-wracking, because are they going to think we're idiots? Are they going to ask me a question that I don't know the answer to? Well, Pulaski was in the room, and but he was very good to us. He's actually had us come to his office afterwards, because one of the things that we discovered in my PMI presentation fell under his purview, and it was fixed that day in the computer. It was a system glitch that didn't give cops on the street information that they were mandatorily supposed to be asking. Love in the 80s, it's not a question, but shout out to Inspector Kavanaugh, aka the bro. Hey, bro! On his retirement after 42 years of service in the NYPD, bring him on as a guest. I would love to have the bro on as a guest. I think it would be hysterical. I will reach out to him. Do you know him?
Oh yeah, I dealt with him a lot in Manhattan. Well, he was in counterterrorism for a long time. A funny guy. Dry sense of humor, in my opinion, but he was good, man.
He will fuck with you and has no problem ripping into you, and breaking your horns. We were executives in Queens North together for many years. Bro, hey, bro, what? he's got problems with his hearing. Oh, it's funny. And you get the spot on comment of the night from 92 Charlie.
Oh, thank you, 92 Charlie.
And Matt Fasano was saying the birds are too heavy today.
Yeah, they do hold. He's right. Yep.
Harrington did not go to PSA 1. That might have been his brother Matt. I'm not sure.
He had a brother, right, on the job?
Well, Mike Harrington was in.
And then Kevin, right?
Kevin was an executive. Both became chiefs. I think Maddie actually is a chief now too. His younger brother. And Mike Marino is telling me I'm the original Two Bars. That's what Mike Marino used to call me, Ronnie Two Bars.
Gotcha, yeah.
He used to call me Ronnie Two Bars. Great stuff. Do we see any more questions?
No, I didn't see anything else.
Because I'm going to scroll through this real quick. I'm not going to go into all the comments. Aaron, I'm still waiting for your answer. Who's left in the family? Is there anybody left in the family?
Somebody said Ronald Reagan. Somebody.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And Leo saying, yeah, there you go. You had to yell. Yeah. And then here we go. Hey, big guy, my apologies. If someone asked this, Tisch seems to be playing out of the Ray Kelly playbook with everything she does. Thoughts? I know for a fact from people that are very close to Ray Kelly that Ray Kelly is absolutely one of her mentors and confidants in what she does. Go ahead, Erin. What's your question? You're going to be the last one, so make it a good question. Make it a legit question, please. And no one is saying Matt was the CEO of the 121. But
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember that Staten Island, yeah.
go ahead, Nolan. You got the last. I'm sorry, Reagan. You got the last question. If you can get it out there real quick, because we're gonna move on. We're 3 hours and 10 minutes in. We have 1,400 viewers currently. 1,400 viewers. God bless you.
There's his question. You can answer that one.
No, never. No, it's not my thing. All right.
That's a great song, though.
Yeah. Thanks for the legitimate question. All right. Two things. I'm going to put this up and you can speak on it real quick. And then what I want to do is play another video.
Yeah, so I mean, Barry Galfano, when I first got to Emergency Service Unit, was a captain there. He eventually got transferred out to become Transit District CO, but he came back. I mean, he was one of the great guys in ESU. I think he was also ESU K9. Great man. He ended up, passing away. I think tomorrow is his 15th year anniversary of his 9/11 illnesses. Listen, he a great guy. I didn't always see eye to eye with him with everything, but respectfully we disagreed and we maintained a friendship. So he was really when you looked at Emergency Service Unit, when I first got on there was Jin Yi and Barry Galfano. They were the hardcore rock ESU guys that came up through the ranks. That knew everything about ESU and weren't afraid to teach myself and the other new captains that came on board. So, Barry, believe me, our hearts go out to your family. And again, thank you for your service. And so it's hard times,
Yeah, definitely a good man who's missed. So. We talk about a 9/11 hero. So John brought a point up that Grant Polgarian, who tackled the failed ISIS-inspired bomber at Gracie Mansions, tackled him, has been added to the Heroes video that they played at the graduation this week. So to those who are watching on the rewind, if you got 3 hours and 12 minutes into it, because we're over 3 hours, hey, Terry's here. Hey, Terry, how are you? Thanks for joining us. But for those of you who are watching the rewind, this may not come up. It may have to. We may get hit for the video because of the music in the video, but 1,400 people listening and watching. If you're listening on Twitter, pick up your phone if you're not driving and take a look now, because I'm going to play the most current Heroes video from the NYPD that was played at the recent graduation ceremony in the NYPD, and it may get taken down by YouTube, or we may have to take it down by YouTube because we may get a copyright hit on it. But here it is, and like I said, the Heroes video. When I got promoted to lieutenant in 2001 in November, I think there might have been one small promotion class after 9/11 2001 terrorist attacks prior to my promotion, but mine was a decent sized promotion. And we didn't know this was coming. And they turned the lights down and played the original Heroes video. And when the lights went back on, there was not a dry eye in the house. It was amazing. And I think that was the original one. And so they've updated it throughout the years, and they continue to play it at the ceremonies. So let's take a look, since we're talking about a 9/11 hero in Barry Galfano. So let's take a look.
For nearly 2 centuries, we have trained to be strong and honest, to defend the defenseless, aid the injured, protect liberty, to hold together the fabric of our city. Heroes, always heroes. Heroes, always heroes. We are the NYPD.
And again, my apologies to those who may not be able to see that, because I believe they copyrighted James Earl Jones's voice and the music. So we may have to, John may have to edit that part out if we get a hit. But it always gets me to this day. To this day, still gets me. All right.
Maybe they should promote him.
Yeah, well, yeah, but he's in there. So, all right. Damn production. You get what you pay for, the production. All right, let's say some thank you for a couple of super chats today. We appreciate it. someone that I haven't seen before, Powder Mill, 1999. It would be nice to see justice being dealt. He's talking about the search warrants. PPE is a must when executing baby oil Maddrey search warrants. Sadly, I fell for the MAGA propaganda. The DOJ remains corrupt under compromised Trump 47, Epstein and war, and etc. So thank you very much. We appreciate
Thank you,
that.
Powder Mill.
And another one, Powder Mill, came back with another 1999. By any chance, is Chief Newscast the same Rob L. Paramus FD Volley? I guess he didn't watch your show. Back in the 80s, early 90s, Cedar Grove sent a group of us to the Bergen Academy, and the face name seems familiar. Great show. Thank you very much for the great show comment. And Rob, do you want to answer the other part?
That's me, man. That's me. Went to the Fire Academy up in Mahwah, New Jersey. Yep, that's me.
So thank you for the super chats. We really appreciate it. And then we want to, before we go, we want to send our well wishes to our brother, Eric Dim, who had surgery yesterday. And so he's on the mend. We have spoken to him. He sent us pictures after he got out of surgery. So he'll be out for a couple of weeks recuperating. But our prayers and well wishes are with him. And hey, thanks for wearing the Executive Perspective swag shirt there, Eric. Appreciate that. Well, yeah, get well. We appreciate you.
Yeah, man, get well soon. Thoughts and prayers with you. Oh, I hope you're doing well, and your family's doing well. So we miss you. We want you back. So I think you should be back Monday. You could probably do it from the hospital bed. I don't see why you can't. I think it's bullshit excuses. Come on, Eric, get on the ball here. Get in the game.
He probably wants to. He's probably. We haven't seen him in the chat, so he's probably doped up right now. On some pain medication because he had, from what I understand, he had pretty good, pretty decent surgery.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So, hope he's feeling better, and he, our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. Get back up on your feet soon, and we need you back in the network, my friend. All right.
Well, I had heard he had back surgery because he's been carrying John McCarthy for all these years on the Finest Unfiltered podcast.
I think we just got taken down. Hey, we still there? Hello?
I'm still here. Yeah. John took us down.
That's it. All right. But so Friday, tomorrow, because we're on for Special Thursday, right? We have 1,444 people. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Yep.
Tomorrow, 0805, John will be on with Marlon. And they'll obviously, the news broke that the search warrants went out and the indictments of the Carone brothers as they were on their show on Wednesday morning. So they'll absolutely be talking about that tomorrow morning. I'm sure they'll get deep into the Carone brothers corruption and how that just ties into a lot of the crumbs and corruption with the Adams administration. If anything comes down, if any indictments are released, I'm sure they'll talk about that. They'll also be talking about the search warrants that were executed and the retirement now of Assistant Chief Jimmy McCarthy.
Wait, hold on. John, I was just kidding, bro. Relax.
So that's great. And then the 10th Floor Tavern with Tommy Joyce and Pete Faselli. So they had their last Jimmy Nomiel, detective first grade from Brooklyn South Homicide, original OG prior to the hostile takeover, transit police officer and pickpocket and decoy squad, following in his father's footsteps. So go back and check out that show and check out all their shows. They have 52 episodes of interviews that you should go back and check it out. We spoke about it earlier. They made an announcement today on social media that they'll be closing down the tavern. They have one more episode. So the next episode will be Tuesday at 7:05 p.m. Make sure to check that out. It's just going to be Pete and Tom. I don't know if they've always treated it like a tavern. People just pop in. So they may have prior guests pop in to make comments. Hopefully they go over their 2-hour 2-hour max. But I'll definitely be watching. I may jump in the studio just to pop in and say goodbye. Pop in the tavern, lift a glass, say thank you. So that'll be their final show. Will be Tuesday at 7:05 p.m. Anything else before we close it out, Rob? Throw it to you.
No. Wish everybody be safe out there. And watch your back, watch your partner's back. Just be careful.
All right, so we're going to end it with this, but at the 10-4 Tavern. Thanks for the memories, Pete and Tom, and all your great guests. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon. Till then, till next week, everybody. We'll be back at our regular date and time, Wednesday at 5:05 p.m.